our sponsor, Parati's Quality Meats, located in Cranford, New Jersey, serving customers all over New Jersey for the past 50 years. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coach's View from the Shore. This is the Shore Football Report. You know Coach Hoadley. You know who I am. We don't need any introduction. We're in week 6, Coach. We're actually in, I can't believe we go 6 weeks. We're on anniversary mode now. I mean, what are you going to get me? What are you going to get me?
I know I got to get you something a little less when I get my wife, or our wives are going to start arguing with each other when you guys are treating each other on anniversaries.
Well, I'll hold my doctor and wife's ears. I'll settle for a pizza, a large pizza. I'll be good with that, man. Week 6, man. We're getting old. Oh my God, we're getting old. Week 6.
It's been fun. But when we always heard the creed: when you're doing the job that's fun, it doesn't feel like a job. So to be week 6 already doing this, it's great. Keeps us involved. Keeps us excited about the best thing, short conference football.
We had to push it up, push it back one day, but that's fine. Our view count has been really good. We're averaging just under 600 views a week, Coach, and that's only on YouTube. I refuse to give it on Instagram where it's so easily. That would be thousands of people that would see it. You want to see us talk, you got to go on YouTube and do it. We're worth the admission.
That just shows the dedication, obviously, what and let's keep it humble. What you've created with the Short Football Report for the players, the coaches, the schools, they're dedicated every week. They have to find it on YouTube. And to be able to triple and quadruple with some of the other media outlets, what they're doing with their talk shows or their reports, I mean, really, this is starting to catch fire. It's awesome to be a part of.
You know what's great? You know how we can bait people to see if they actually watch our show? Don't pick them for the game of the week. And I'll tell you right now, you'll get a nice, healthy text on a Friday morning. That's what I get all the time. I love it. It wakes me up, man. I like it. And that goes for the coaches. That goes for some of the parents and players. I know you're watching because you see our picks. I like that. That's great, man. It really is. So we're coasting right in, man, to the second part of the season, to be honest. And next week, we're going to talk about our mid-season kind of award winners. I like to do that. We'll do a little offensive, defensive, special teams, and of course we can't forget those sophomore freshmen who are going to be a big part of the short conference in the next couple of years and also this year. But
and are making impacts right now.
I'm going to be honest with you. With the virus out there, with the COVID, the flu season, we got hit with the bug too, called the upset bug. The upset bug hit. Woo! 4.
You and me both. I felt very sick at the end of Saturday night.
I went to the doctor. I had a stomach ache. The doctor looked at me. He goes, "You got the upset bug, son," and he knows it because there are teams that made me look bad. Me look bad in the picks, man. Credit to those guys, man.
That's why they play the games on the field, right? Not on paper.
God, I did not feel right for a couple of days with the upset bug hitting me. Bam. You have Howell, Toms River South, Asbury Park, and Freehold. We're going to give them their due. We'll talk about it. But boy, oh boy, they upset some teams there that nobody thought that they were going to win. It's a credit to those guys. It really is. Absolutely. And give us some stuff to talk about. But again, the word parity, if that's a vocab word you don't know in English class, you do know it now if you see our show. There's a lot of parity out there.
I had written down that you and I have actually said ad nauseum how great the short conference did this year by pairing up the schedule. It's proven now where you're going into week 5 where teams are really starting to feel themselves and you get upsets on top of it. They really did a great job with scheduling these teams.
Coach, you look up parity in a dictionary, it shows you the short conference football divisions, man, because there's so much parity and it's fun. Every week there's playoff atmospheres, and I think it's only going to help our guys in the next couple of weeks when we hit the playoff things right there. But
that's a great point. I think that's a really true statement. You obviously know the playoffs that you've gone to myself. We've seen the difference because of the strength of schedule that the short conference plays every week and then week out. Then when you see that first or second round game against the other conferences, usually those short conference teams start to rise up just because of the battle testing that's going on week after week after week.
Coach, I am going to say this. I'm playing devil's advocate with the scheduling because I don't know if everybody knows how good they are because you play traditional games. We're talking way back when there was A South, B South, A North, and all that. You had your traditional games you played, and then you would come up with your record and you would say, you know what, this team's as good as the
Yeah.
83 team or the 85 team. But now you got teams that are used to playing in the A North, and
Yeah.
then they're playing a little bit of a softer schedule from the past, and then you're getting false reality of wins, and
Yeah.
you don't know if you're good or not. And it's, to me, I'm kind of traditional guy, and it's kind of confusing. I
Yeah.
like those traditional games, but it seems like every week is a comparable game to the way you are today, and that's
Yeah.
that. But
And I think it's also, it's kind of, I don't want to use the word stressful, but it's also challenging a lot of the coaches nowadays because, like you just touched on,
yeah,
if you're a perennial A South team that was playing the Bricks, the Brick
yeah,
Memorials, the Lacey's, the Tom's Riverside, you basically knew what that schematic was
yeah.
that week in, week out, what you were going to do. Now, week after week after week, you're facing new offenses or new defenses that you got to scheme up for. It's really starting to challenge coaches that you really can't go to your playbook with. This is what we've done for the past couple of years, and so on. I mean, you're challenged. I know what that's like. It's kind of it gets stressful after a while.
And to add to it, there's pod games to
True.
be announced. You
Oh,
have
great
no
point.
idea. So
No
as a
idea.
coach, as coach to coach, when you're a coach, you kind of break down your games
Yep. You
weeks
scout.
weeks ahead. You
Yep. Of
scout.
course.
You kind of want to fix things. You're going into a to be announced games right
Yep.
now and have no idea who you're playing.
That's a
So
great point.
so it's really tough. We're going to talk more about that next week, and that's tough because that's where more upsets happen.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, it kind of that's what it is. And I don't like the listen. I don't like the pods. I don't like them. I don't like hearing that word. Pod makes me feel like something negative with the COVID, but I don't like the pods. I just like give me my schedule so I can figure out what we're gonna do in terms of our scouting and preparing little by little. Because you don't just say, okay, now we're playing this team. Let's figure out what we're doing. You kind of have coaches breaking down film because as the weeks go on, you're playing a team with 7 games. You're not going to spend 7 more hours that week. So you got to break it down. And some of the really good coaching staffs out there kind of pace themselves with it. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
But
I'm kind of on the same feeling with the pods. I don't like the word pod. I don't like the fact that you got your top four teams, you play them in a championship pod, so to speak. But then that second pod, like for example, Rumston goes into that second pod last year. What do they do in the state playoff? You know what I mean? That's a team that's a great team. To me, if you want to have a true short conference champion, then rank the top teams, let them play into a playoff, and that's fine. But don't tell me that it's not. I do the same job you do. We are all passionate high school coaches. So because I'm coaching in Pod D, does that make it anything less that's coaching in
yeah,
Pod A? To me, I agree with you.
I had one coach that said use pod in a sentence. I said, okay, I hate pods. There you go. There's my sentence. I hate it, coach.
That's actually very funny.
And it's very truthful because I did say that. But we're going to talk more and more about that next week. We have a lot to talk about. We really do. A lot of great things that are happening in the shore. You know, I'm excited about the future. I don't know what it holds, but it holds a lot of good times, good moments ahead of us with the shore conference. Really does. Right?
Yes, sir.
So we are going to talk about last week's games. We're going to talk about our coaches' top 20.
Top
Ooh,
20.
I always like that. I love when the votes come in and new people come in and, you know,
And
who moved up, who didn't.
There's definitely a lot of talk that we have this week about it.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk, and hopefully people are listening. After our coaches' top talk, I pre-taped Coach Hill yesterday, and we talked. With Coach Hill, who had a great win
Huge
at
win
Howell.
over Lacey Township.
You know, it's his alma mater school, and he beat Lacey.
Yep.
And you know, they're a team that I wouldn't want to play them right now. They're 1-3, and they're hanging around a lot of games, and they punched one in against Lacey, losing 21-0, came back to win the game on the road. Wow.
Yep. Says a lot.
Credit to him. We're gonna then have a little fun and kind of just talk a little bit because everybody's out there wants to know who do we think is going to be in the short conference Final Four. We can only talk about what may happen, but there's still a lot of football left, Coach. Still a lot of football left, but we're going to talk a little segment of the top pod. You know, again, let's just stop talking about that word. But we will talk about that, and then we'll talk about next week's games. Looking into there, we're going to break it down and have a little fun with that, huh?
Yes, sir.
Getting a little cooler.
It's starting to feel like football weather now.
Here's
Definitely
one thing
starting
I
to
don't
feel-
like being a reporter.
Yeah.
I went to a game Thursday night. Saw my buddy, Coach Steve Fentz. They played Overbrook. Thursday night football. Hear me out, guys. I think that the short conference would do this. I've been saying this for a couple years, a lot on deaf ears, but here's what I think we should do. If we want to promote short conference football, let's have Thursday night football. If you have Thursday night football to go along with Friday night, Saturday, and some Saturday night games, it's going to expose a lot more players out there for the media, for the players, for the fans, and that's that. But Thursday night could be sacred because when I went to New Egypt, it was packed. A Group 1 school, it was packed on a Thursday night. It was awesome. All the media were around there. It was great because it was the only game in town. Why can't we do it? Why can't we fit it on a bye, play teams that were on a bye and have them play so they can prepare a week and a half for it and then have almost a little bit extra time the next week to play? I think that would be great. Now, can you imagine the smaller division, the Keyports, the Keensburgs, all those schools there, the Pinelands and all them playing on a Thursday night, and now they get more PR, and that's what it's all about. So, football.
Not only that, just think, and listen, we both know, and I have no problem saying it out loud. High school football, short conference football, is the most exciting, unbelievable sport. Can you imagine you take that big win on Thursday night, and now you're walking into the hallways Friday morning, going into your weekend? You want to talk about excitement and morale in the school building up. It's a great atmosphere.
I didn't realize I have rabbit ears. My buddy Steve Fentz, who coached with me for 2 years, he's now the coach at New Egypt, turns to me and he goes, what plays are open? I said, well, listening to the fans there, I heard 6 of them, right? So just pick one of them because I know they're right. They're always right up there in the stands. But I had a great time, Coach, watching football from the sidelines, and it's starting to get cold. The one thing that I didn't realize, but when you coach and then you walk into the locker room, the time you go to the bathroom, you talk to the players, it's like you hear the knock. All right, let's go. Right?
How long does it take? Now, how long is it?
It is so long.
I agree.
I can run 2 miles.
I agree.
And take a 5-minute break, and we still got 10 minutes left on the clock.
I noticed it myself. I was at the Keyport game on Saturday, and I noticed the difference. And it's funny you're mentioning it because I said you take your walk back, you meet with your defensive or offensive staff. What went well? What didn't go well? Okay, this is what we're going to show on the board. You take your turn, offense and defense. Head coach talks to the team. This is what we got to do. Knock at the door. You got to walk out. I could have had a hot chocolate, a hot dog, said hello to old friends. What's going on there? It's amazing for them to be on this side to see what the time is different in reality time.
Listen, I love my dad. I love my mom. But my dad's telling my sister the greatest thing about Rob not coaching is I get to watch high school football with him for the first time in 20-something years, right?
That's great.
Listening to my dad, it's like Joe Buck. Every single second. And I mean, it's like, and when a timeout happens, he's got more time to talk to me. It's like, you don't need the timeout. Just get out there, guys. Let's go. But
that's where you wish you had a headset on you.
Right? And forget about halftime. I think this weekend I'm going to start running on the track to get away from the play-by-play stuff that my dad talks about. Yeah. What'd you think about this? Well, I thought, Jesus Christmas. But I'll tell you, man, the timeouts and the halftime are just so long when you're used to during a game, being so quick.
Because we're so tunnel visioned on what's going on in front of us as coaches. And again, how many times we said it, that's why this talk show is so special as a coach's view from the side, because we know what it's like on the other side, because we get so tunnel vision on and just we're not worried about the time of overall time. Okay, play clock time, timeout time, how much time is remaining on the clock. But that halftime, trust me, as fans, trust me, that goes by so fast, and you have to have so much input of what you have to do. People have no idea where they're actually having full conversations, talking to buddies they haven't seen in 20 years.
And halftime talks sometimes don't have to be X and O's. Sometimes it could be psychological.
It's about a mental game, absolutely.
Right? Sometimes kids exert so much energy reaching for their cell phone or yelling and clapping and doing all that, when I love to bottle it up. Bottle it up, hold it in, and let it go at the right time. But there's so much psychological stuff, Coach, that coaches use. I love listening and watching other people and hearing it. I love taking notes. But I always say to the kids, they know cell phones. If their cell phone is like 10%, it's not working, and they panic. So I always tell the kids the analogy: your battery charge is up here. You need to charge it up. You need to charge up. How do you charge it up? You relax. You shut down, just like with the phone. And that's what we tell the kids. The refs look at me like I'm nuts. Like, recharge your battery. They're like, what are you talking about? But the kids have to put this in some type of sequence of your talks.
For them to relate to it. You're right.
So that's that. But it's very interesting, different techniques, what everybody does with that. So, Coach, let's recap last week's games. And the theme of the week is upset specials. 4 teams were real excited, and 4 teams probably going to edit this part out when they watch us, man. So understand that our view count might be a little different with who's watching it, but let's get going. Rumson's on a roll in the American Division. The number 1 team beat Tom Driven North 37-7. I feel bad for Tom Driven North because they're in a division right now that is just brutal. I mean, I understand they got those enhanced points with Donovan Catholic, which put them right up to 9th in the poll again. And when you see those state playoffs, Coach, divide it by 2 because it shows you 16 teams, and they got to break down to South and Central Jersey or North 1, North 2. So a 9th seed is like a 4 to 5 with that. But Rumson's on a roll with their quarterback, outstanding quarterback, coming out of nowhere, so to speak, outside of Rumson. But they liked him. Colin Kennedy had 9 for 13, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns. To me, I mean, that's just common work for him right now.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, let's just talk about the defense that Jeremy Schulte, Coach Schulte's son, DC, assistant head coach. They went to a 4-2-5 defense this year that I was down there talking to him about, which we ran last year, and they're just locking things down with that defense. But let's keep it real. I mean, they had 3 interceptions, an interception return for. John List is one of the best linebackers probably in the state. I saw that kid firsthand last year against me, and he is just an absolute game breaker at linebacker what they play. But they're really rolling with the Bulldogs right now.
Yeah, they just got a bunch of guys fitting their roles, but they do have star power. John Lista scoring that touchdown. Big, strong, physical dude getting an interception around the house. I wouldn't want to tackle him. I got news for you. I'm looking the other way. If I threw an interception with that kid, no way am I tackling that dude. So Rumson, with that win, clinched a tie, and now they can go for the overall championship to themselves next week. Wall, the number 6 team, played number 7 Colts Neck, 35-6. Now, Coach, some people are shocked. I mean, how quickly people forget they were on a 20-game winning streak in the short conference.
They were kind of banged up in the beginning of the year.
They were. And Coach Graninetti doesn't like to use it as excuses, but they lost some kids out for the year. Fumarola, the outstanding linebacker junior, is out for the year. Of course, they lost Sasso and Riley. They were dinged up in that game and lost it for before, but they're starting to create their own identity from last year. And winning against the Colts Neck team was, looked pretty solid in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So I would not count out Wall right now to make a statement as the games go on. 35-6. The kid Delav, Jake Davis had a touchdown and a running touchdown, and Matt Delave 24 yards, 2 touchdowns. But they're playing physical football. UP Colts Neck, that's a physical team, and Wall's a very physical team too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I both said it 2 weeks ago. Now that they were starting to get some key ingredients back, that Coach Bellina on the defense, who does a great job as a DC. He had 9 out of 11 returners, but he was down a couple major players that were on that defense. Now you start seeing against the Colts Neck team that was putting their hand on the ground, running the football effectively the first couple weeks. For them to come in there and hold Colts Neck to 6 points, Wall's back. They are at full strength. Wall's going to make a name for themselves right now.
Yeah, and they got a big game next week. We're not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about it later, but that's going to be one of the games of the week right there. Colonial Division, Middletown South looks like that they clinched a tie at least in that conference, and they were on a bye. No, they weren't on a bye. Yeah, they were on a bye last week. Manalapan beat the number 9 team, Manalapan, beat number 4 Southern at Southern, 21-15. Dominic Lepore. It's got these guys going in the right direction, playing great defense, and their offense is scoring enough points to make them a threat right now. And their kicking game, they have 2 kick return touchdowns. And they got an outstanding kicker in Carlton. Outstanding, right? So a good makeup for a team to make a run in the playoffs. But about this game, Elijah Marquez scored a 1-yard touchdown, 5 minutes left, and they held off Southern at Southern. Big game for them.
Yeah, I definitely. Some people said, "Oh, that was an upset." I don't consider. I mean, that's 2 top teams. Between 9 and 4. I mean, either way, Manalapan had a tough loss to Mid South that went, to a last, couple second game.
Yes.
Southern's been playing great football. This was a great game, and to touch on that Manalapan, I said this a couple weeks ago. Manalapan brought back Mike Cortez. I don't know if you remember, who ended up having a great career at Rutgers. Now he's coaching up with the special teams. What's going on over, Manalapan? That's a big thing. Another alumni giving back to the Braves. Manalapan is really, really a good football team right now. And that's nothing against Coach Donahue with Southern, because Southern Regional with Group 5, they are going to make a name for themselves in the States.
Coach, you can't consider that an upset when Manalapan could wind up with the championship, too. I mean,
correct.
It's right now Middletown South is clinched a tie, but if Middletown South loses next week to Southern Regional and Manalapan beats Jackson, 3-way tie. Three-way tie. So a lot of football has to happen still in that division right there. But the one guy who had a big game was, I want to say his name right, he's a sophomore, Macheo. Had a kick return, touchdown, fumble recovery. He's a sophomore, Coach. He's a sophomore. Had a big game. I guess Jaden Brown had a typical 165-yard game, was a force on defense. That just was a good football game. It came right down to the end. 2 good football teams, and they might both have a chance to finish champions if Southern Regional, and don't count out Southern Regional to beat Middletown South, because anybody of those 3 teams are just as good as anybody in that conference, Coach.
I agree.
Holmdel, 35, Jackson, 16. Both teams were winless, but they're good football team. I'm going to say that word, pod. Nobody wants to face these guys in the pod. They are not reflective of their record. I know Jackson had a couple key kids out the last couple weeks. Their quarterback was out. I think their lineman was out the week before, Eric B. They're a solid team, and Holmdel's a physical football team. Somebody had to win, somebody had to lose. I feel bad for the next team that's going to play Jackson, because Jackson is one of the best winless teams in the Shore Conference. And I'm saying that in a positive way, Coach. Jaden Gallo had a great game again. Second team all-short kid had 155 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Luke DuPont had 170 yards rushing, and I think they ran for over 360 yards against a traditionally tough defense in Jackson.
Yeah, and credit to Coach Rannis with the Hornets. I mean, the only win that they had was the first week against St. Joseph by the Sea, but ever since he came back into the Shore Conference, playing in this division, what's going on, he said he was going to be a little, playing up a level, so to speak.
Yeah.
But to see, that these kids, that's where you can tell about the culture, what's been created over the last 4 years, 5 years with Coach Rannis with Homedale. They have not given up, obviously. Now they're back at 2 and 3. They have a shot at winning a couple more games. They're looking at a state playoff bid.
Yeah, they are.
What's going to go forward, because there's a lot of good PowerPoints still left on the table with this team.
Their OSI is tremendous, meaning their opponent strength index.
Well, strength of schedule. It's amazing.
Which has really helped them out with that, Coach. Now going to the Constitution, Red Bank Catholic has been in control of a division that had, after Red Bank Catholic, everybody was closely knit. But Red Bank Catholic is clinched a tie. They're 3-0. They're kind of coasting right now. They beat a Red Bank team that was a little bit on a roll. They were on a roll, but it's kind of hard for sometimes these publics to play these parochials that are on a roll like they are. And Alex Brown, typical 10 of 15, 140 yards and a touchdown. Emmanuel Ross had also a touchdown. This kid, Davin Bruton, that I'm hearing about, this sophomore,
Sophomore.
I know I'm jumping him over Bauman and all this stuff right now, but I'm just saying he's a sophomore. That's what I'm hearing is the real dude. He's a
Yeah,
real.
I've seen him. He's a stud.
He is, and he's a sophomore.
Yeah.
So that's that. Add that to Portella brothers.
Yeah.
Again, Bauman, who's one of the best out there. I love McPherson, the other DN. Coach, they're a balanced team. They got a lot of star guys on that football team. They really do.
And they got a pretty good outside linebacker that I coached up last year, Rajon Cooper, who ended up having 2 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery to go out there with 6 tackles at outside linebacker, and also chips in, does a pretty good job at running back as well. So yeah, RBC's really rolling right
Coach,
now.
they might be. I think they have the deepest running back position in the short conference.
Yeah.
So whoever's that running back coach must be, pumping his chest a little bit.
You know
right
what's
there.
kind of scary, because obviously facing him last year, you haven't really heard a lot about Rahman, the St. Joseph Montville transfer last year that went in there last year from them. And let me tell you something. He is a DC's nightmare when you see him with his pass. His pass route running is so precise, and you really haven't seen. That just tells you exactly what you just expanded on, Coach. The wealth of talent that RBC has right now at all positions. I mean, it's scary.
Coach, there's only one football. Remember
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
So that shows a lot of teamwork.
Yeah.
They're being cohesive and all that.
Coach Lang is doing exactly what he has to do, imposing it. It's all about team. Yep.
He told me in his interview that if everybody buys into the one football concept and they all do it, they're going to be okay. And,
yes, sir.
And he's kind of right on that right now. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, Red Bank Catholic is moving. Now, a team after they played RBC is really kind of getting in the groove is Manasquan. Manasquan is the number 13th ranked team. They beat Raritan, who is the number 20th, 35-28 in overtime. And that's 2 playoff teams right there. That was a playoff game. And Brett Patton, coach, he's quietly becoming one of the best leaders out there in the short conference. And he's a junior. He's a junior. And on the tip of a lot of college coaches there. And we're going to talk about him in another week or so with colleges.
Quarterback strong division, in a really quarterback strong division, yep.
Manasquan's got two stud receivers, Robert Pendergrass and Cole Kozlowski. I mean, putting them, separating them on the left and right. Big threats. They have 2 running backs, Woodward and Howard. Their defense is studded with J.J. Kavanaugh and the 2 Burns guys, and add those receivers on the DB, coach. That's a traditional Manasquan football team that's going to be playoff ready at the end of the season.
They're traditional, but also, and you touched on this, in the preseason report, that you knew what's going to go on with Coach Sella now taking over the offense now, how they were going to kind of spread things out a little bit more from just being in your regular pro form, I form formation with what Manasquan's done before. Now they're starting to go a little bit more outside, throw the ball a little bit. You're starting to see
I'm going to say this, Coach. Coach Sella runs RPO offense where he's reading an outside linebacker and doing all this. Coach Kaboo ran RPO. And you know what the RPO stood for? Run people over. All right? Yeah. So Coach Kaboo brought that in. You know, I said that to Lou Versillo too. He runs RPO, run people over. But different kind of RPO, same results. Same results. Let's just say that. Meet me in the end zone. Who cares, right? But Raritan's a little banged up, Coach. But they got a lot of guys back from last year. They're banged up. I'm waiting for them to kind of put it all together. But again, they lost to a Manasquan team. That was a tough game. Don't count them out. Don't count Coach Petrucci
out. I was going to touch on that too, Coach. Is that Raritan's having a little bit of a tough season with the injury bug going on, but they're starting to get some kids back.
Yeah,
like Calicari came back after a broken collarbone. He ends up running for a touchdown. Riley ran for 37 yards. Raritan was right in this game. It's an overtime game, and Raritan could be a real type of team that starts to, and Coach Petrucci's shown this in the past, losing the first 5 games and all of a sudden going on a 5 or 6 game run, getting into the States, which you know about. You know what I'm trying to say? So I wouldn't put past Raritan. They start getting healthy. They start to make that run.
Coach, he was 3-5 one year and won the state title.
I know.
Did you know that? Yeah, 3-5. He finished with 7-5 and won the state playoff. Yeah. So they're definitely not counted out on my end at all. Long season. Quickly you'll forget about week 5 at the end of the year if you're really got it going. So that was a playoff game. That was probably a great game to watch, and all that stuff. the Freedom Division, Long Branch is, I mean, the Danny George tour. God, you couldn't script it any better right now. He undefeated right now. They're playing for him. They got something to play for. That is scary, scary. That mix happening. And this kid Rodriguez, Christian
Christian
Rodriguez,
Rodriguez.
he's letting it go, man. He's doing a great job. 53-7 they won against Tom Drees, coach. 53-7. They're just clicking right now, and they're getting better each week and more confident. They really are. Siku Kamu. Now, I'm going to just tell you, Coach George told me beginning of the year that this kid is one of the best he's ever coached at running back.
Yeah, I saw it on the preview with you. Yep, with the coach.
Junior now.
Yep.
Junior.
Yep.
Shamar Williams, I told people at the beginning of the year, one of the best shutdown DBs out there, scored a touchdown on a return, on an interception. They have probably, I think, the best receiving core in the short conference because it could be a different guy at any time. They really got it rolling, and they're playing well in the trenches, and they're taking care of business. The number 8th ranked team, Long Branch, clinched a division championship and can close it up with a win against Toms River South, who had a very big upset. Toms River South. Toms River South defeated the number 12 ranked Freehold Borough 14-13 at overtime. I'm going to give Coach Ellis credit and D'Antonio for going for 2 points at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It came down to at the end they scored and they wanted to go for 2 instead of 1. And South won. South stopped them.
Yeah.
Incomplete pass. Toms River South, I told Sig this morning, when people count him out, he wins. He got beat against East 27-7, comes back, he wins. And then this week, people didn't give him a chance. He's got guys out.
Yeah.
14-13. He has a sophomore quarterback, Jimmy Alexander, that's kind of getting better a little, and he's playing a lot earlier than he thought he was going to play. And now they're 2-3, and they're right in the thick of it for the playoffs.
And to see what went on during this game, I mean, Freehold still did what they wanted to do. Kamar Gill had still a monster game. He had 245 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 140 yards. The difference was that Toms River South did not break. They bended a little bit. They just didn't let him in the end zone. They got the 3 and outs when it came time to it to be able to flip the script, get some field position type of dominance where it could go through. And again, credit to Coach Ellis. He went for the coach, go for 2. We want to win. And Toms River South stepped up and made the play. I mean, that was a great football game. Credit to Sig and Toms River South. That's a big time win. And the whole that Borough team out of that empty set to 13 points. Credit. That's a lot of credit. That's tough to do.
Sophomore coming in, he's a starter now. Wasn't even thinking about starting because he wasn't starting at the beginning of the year, and scored a overtime touchdown that eventually was the game winner. Credit to the Indians. Really good job with that. Yep. Coach, now let's scoot over to the Independence Division. I hate calling it. I hate texting Independence. It's too long. They got to abbreviate it. Nothing against the teams there, but let's make an easier name, Coach, next time. Independence is hard.
I agree with you. I'm an A, B, C, North, Central.
Give me D, and I'm happy. Yes.
I'm an old school guy, too.
Independence Division. Well, first, to win the division, you got to be able to spell it. And forget me, I couldn't spell it, Coach. So, but Howell, Coach Hill, who you're going to see the video later on in this show, won his first game at Howell, 33-28, was losing 21-0, didn't have the momentum, stayed at it, and had 459 yards of offense. Connor Gordon, 4 touchdowns. One of them was a 95 kick return touchdown. They're playing good football and finally won. It is possible to play good football and lose, but they did it in a winning form against a Lacey team that looked like they were going to win the whole share of the division, Coach.
I agree with you. This one, I don't want to use to sound like it stunned me, but again, that's why they play the game on the field, not on paper. This had a Lacey win written on it. I predicted late, but that shows that Coach Hill. Hey, listen, he's had 2 games where he was in tight games with a loss, which you'll get into with the interview with Coach Hill. These kids are playing hard for him, and to be able to take that game with Lacey, that's a big time win for the Rebels to be able to come out and that's a lot of power points that he gained on them as well. To come through with it. So
Steve Jardam's having a pretty impressive season right now. Quietly, coach, 749 yards. He's got two receivers and Vecchiarelli
Beccarelli,
and Gardestein. But they have a lot of depth at receivers. They really do. And right now they're going to be playing a team that we're going to talk about later on, coming off a big loss. So, we'll see in our picks later on. But Howell's a team that's getting better, and they're better than their record shows. They're 1-3 now, but we'll see how they are in a couple weeks because I think better days are ahead for Coach Hill and the Howell Rebels, Coach. Number 14, Middletown North defeated Brick Memorial 35-10. Kind of Middletown North is separating themselves. They had one bump in the road at Lacey, and I'm going to be honest with you, should have won that game, Coach. Coach Bush has got them rolling. They got that quarterback, Tommy Giannone, 6'4", 6'5", whatever he is. I know he's taller than me. He's throwing the rock all over the place, 195 yards, 12 for 15. I love Brian Haddo at running back and safety. He's all over the place.
I said screens. That with you as well.
Yep. You have said it. Yep, duly noted. Run screens. He's like the guy for Carolina, McCaffrey.
He's like Christian McCaffrey.
He's just like him. He really is. But I like him on defense. He flies to the football. I think he's a college safety, to be honest with you. Yep. But they got great defensive players. Jack Lopez at the end. They're a solid football team. They really are. And Middletown North, did what they had to do against Brick Memorial, and maybe they play Brick. The winner of that game is going to be at least get a clinch of the division. Lacey has to beat Brick Memorial. If Lacey doesn't beat Brick Memorial, the winner of Brick Middletown North wins it all.
Yeah, we said it a couple weeks ago that we both agreed with the senior leadership with Haddo, Giannone, Lucas Servo, what they had. I've seen actually coaching against them firsthand. When they had that tough loss, they had. Let's see the senior leadership rise up now. Now you're starting to see the senior leadership start to distance himself and carry them. Like we just talked about, had 13 tackles in a pass breakup. That kid is a multi-player, on both facets of the game. And I agree with you. I see him at the next level on the defensive side. I agree with that.
If there was a fantasy league and short conference, he would be on the tips of everybody's top of their draft right there.
Yep.
But we won't talk about gambling on here. Good. Liberty Division. Liberty Division. Number 10 Central in a big build-up game versus number 16 Marlboro. We had Coach Dagato on the show. I mean, he was rocking it and doing all that, but let's call a spade a spade. Central's pretty good.
Central's good.
Central's pretty good. Yes. Yep. 42-0 against a team that's coming on high on the game. Biggest game in years for Marlboro. Brought him back down to reality a little bit. Central's very, very good. I changed my mind in the last 2 minutes, but Central's very good. They can run the football. They're good against the run. They're a good defense. They got a lot of depth. But Danny Morris, his punt return. I don't want to talk about Chase right away, but Danny Morris.
Okay, good. Because I'm going to talk about it.
I know you like that, but Danny Morris with a 55-yard punt return touchdown. I loved when somebody else makes a play other than Anthony Musso and Chase Gumford. But Danny Morris, who's an outstanding defensive back too, seeing him put on the jet burners on a 55-yard punt. They're just getting more momentum right now, Central, with Coach Pidge and all that. Go ahead, you could talk about Chase.
Yeah, during our interview last week, I know you spoke to Coach Dagato and you basically said to him, listen, you obviously know that you have to stop Chase Gumbrick at running back. Do you plan on doing it? He goes, we know what they're trying to do. We're going to have to come down to the game plan, and that's going to be our number one thing. Well, he ran for 151 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Coach, I know what he was doing, too. He's running.
Right, exactly. Right. He's leading the short conference with 1,128 yards rushing. He's got 19 touchdowns. I mean, as he goes, the Eagles go.
Yeah.
He's having a special year. And again, Central in preseason, we looked at both of us. I didn't have him in the top 10. I'll be the first one to admit it. This is a legitimate top short conference team right now, sitting at 5-0.
And we're going to talk about them in the equation, possibly in that Final Four. We're gonna. There's a lot of people that are very interested to see what you and I talk about with that right there. But they clinched a tie, at least with that, Freehold Township 29-0 versus Mattawan. I mean, Mattawan's a team that's better than you want them to be. They're a young team, but Freehold Township has a young quarterback, Mark Aguayo, 407 yards passing the ball, and broke a school record. And it looks like Coach Davies has got himself a little toy for the next 2 more years plus the remaining part of this year.
Say that again, Coach. 407 yards in a high school football game.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right. You don't have to tell Coach Davies twice to pass the ball because you know he likes to do it, but he's got some toys. They really, whatever it was, he kind of rejuvenated the team a little bit because the defense played a lot better, and they moved the football, they scored, and they won. A sophomore kid with a little bit of a juice right there, so that's a nice little startup for them with that. But they got a bunch of sophomores playing. I know Sebastian Andahar is a linebacker, also plays running back. They got a junior and Nick Benjamino. I mean, Freehold Township is a team you don't want to, match up with in that POD games. Again, I don't want to say that word, but don't count out Mattawan in the future. They're very, very young, but Freehold Township had their day, 29-0, and congratulations to them on their first win. The National Division, we had Pinelands that beat Point Beach 14-7 in a real close game. Went right down to the end. I know it was rocking there in Wildcat Land. Ryan Allen completed 5 of 9 for 101 yards and 45 yards rushing and a touchdown, and beat a scrappy. And I'm going to say this, Coach, because I know Coach Saccone does a great job. Scrappy team, and I don't think they have anybody. I think they don't have more than 2 people over 225 pounds on that team. But boy, oh boy, they'll run through the wall for that coach.
Yeah,
they really will.
I agree with you.
So they hung tough against a Group 3 team in Pineland. So it's 14-7. That was a competitive game. That's what these ADs want. They got it.
Yep, I agree. This was the epitome of a national divisional game right here. I mean, you have a Group 3 team that kind of struggled with the large Group 3 teams coming down to play a Group 1 team that has kind of perennially, over the last 10 years, have really produced. Coach Saccone's really starting to turn the corner with Point Beach, and you got a great matchup right here, a 14-7 game.
Yeah.
A gritty football game.
It really was, yeah. And Pinelands even up their record 2-2.
Yep.
Now Monmouth won a really, really big national division game. Both teams undefeated. Keyport was rolling, but Monmouth came out 28-7 on the road, Coach. And you were at the game, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
What'd you think?
Monmouth's real. They really looked aggressive. They were able to run the football really well. Keyport had a couple timely turnovers that kind of cost them in field position where it went through. I love to see one of my former defensive players that played on our JV level that are now starting to rise over at varsity.
Right.
Nelson Harris Thomas, he had an interception and a strip sack, which was a huge part of the game where Keyport was starting to drive the field and they ended up turning the ball over. Then of course Keyport did what they usually do. Mitchell, the quarterback, found DJ Thompson on some type of post corner route that he was able to break away from the secondary, and then DJ, being the stud that he is at wideout, just broke away and took it over. But Monmouth is legit. I mean, that running back Jones, he runs hard, and I mean hard. I mean, he gets to the edge, and if you want to try to come up and roll down the safety to try to take him on, you better pack a lunch because he's going to lower the shoulder and go. I mean, 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's tough.
Coach, you won a lot of championships in your day. I have too. You don't win championships. I mean, it's nice to have your toys on the corner, but you win if you win the trenches. That's that.
Football.
Exactly. You got to win the trenches, and Monmouth dominated the line of scrimmage. 117 yards they've given up defensively. I mean, again, everybody watches the ball and where it goes, but those dudes that are in the trenches there, they won the war. And you are not going to win a championship unless you have tough kids in the trenches. And Monmouth showed that 28-7. Won the Monmouth. Well, they clinched a tie.
They clinched.
They looked pretty good to win it all. They took commanding control of it with a 28-7 win over Keyport. Congratulations to Coach and those guys because they haven't won one in how many years was it? 10 years?
10 years since 2006.
It's a lot of years, Coach.
Yeah.
A lot of years. Wow. That's when I started football at Barnegat. That was 15. Wow. Kingsburg 42, Lakewood 28. I know Lakewood's a little banged up with some injuries. Michael Brathwaite had
Yep.
another big game, 7 for 11, 171, 16 tackles, 95 yards rushing. I mean, they're going as far as he goes. They
I
real
agree.
they really are. That was a nice win for them to get there to put one game over 500 and start looking now to the state
Now
playoffs,
yep.
which they're excited about with that. But going 3-2 for Coach Bird is huge, and I know his goal is to get into those state playoffs any way they can, and that was a
Yep.
big win, beating a Group 3 school in Lakewood
Yeah. I agree
for the
with you.
state playoffs for that, Coach. Asbury Park, now the Patriot. I was surprised. I really was
Didn't see it.
surprised in
I
this.
didn't see it.
I mean, I thought it was a toss-up game, but I did not see a
No,
42 7.
42-7.
I mean, it was 34-7 at half.
Yeah.
Asbury Park was clicking. They really were. And Jashawn Carter, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing. He also had a touchdown reception. That
Yeah.
kid is something special, and it was highlight runs that he did. I love the quarterback, though. I love the quarterback, Brown, the junior, 6'5". I mean, very poised and throwing the football. He just gets rid of it so quick. Just has so many receivers around the edge. Lydell Brown, Riley Stevens, Iquan Crawford and Javon King at defense. Just had a great game. 8 tackles, 2 sacks. Um, Played a team, Barnegat, that was 3-1, and Asbury Park proved that they were the better team by a lot. I was very, very surprised in how much of a distance the score was, but says a lot about Asbury. Sometimes you just got to say it was more you than them. But
Right.
Asbury was the real deal, and we got a little surprise in the middle of this show. Maybe Asbury Park might have won some votes over in the top 20.
And I think too, obviously, with Asbury jumping out so fast, that kind of takes Barnegat's identity with JoJo Bibbins away, with keeping the ball on the ground. Now you got to start doing things that you're not really accustomed to.
Yeah.
And I know Coach Demers, I coached with him 4 years ago in our championship team with that 3-4 that he types a run where he can kind of attack. You're trying to play right into that game. That's what happens. Credit to the Blue Bishops. I mean, I agree with you. It was a toss-up game. I did not see a 42-7 game.
No, but they just jumped out and said they might be serious contenders in the South Jersey Group 1 or Central Jersey Group 1, whatever one they're in. They'll figure it out. Manchester got back on the winning ways, 34-20. Savon Meyer came into the season as the hyped up quarterback. 230 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, ran for a touchdown, a 55-yarder. I mean, when he's on, they're on. And,
that's well said. Yeah.
Jackson Liberty hung tough, but Manchester came out with a win. Damari Brown, one of the best two-way players, defensive back and receiver, 7 catches, 115 yards. Tyrone Benjamin had 2 interceptions. So it was a big win for Manchester at home for those guys over there. Now, non-divisional games, you have the number 3 Donovan Catholic played number 18 St. John Vianney, Coach. And after last week, what happened, this was the first game they were playing with, getting those 4 losses put on their schedule. And they proved to everybody that they're ready to kind of win out in their minds. 34-9 its score was actually against the St. John Vianney team that plays really good defense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I look at the score, I go 34-9. They must have played good defense because that's how dominant Donovan Catholic is. Nunez Bukla had 3 touchdowns. Jalen Butler had close to 200 yards rushing. And Michael Thomas, the real fast wide receiver, had a nice jet sweep touchdown run. He's a freshman. Very convincing win against the St. John Vianney team that's real scrappy, playing really good football on the defensive side. But Donovan Catholic came out with a win in that one, Coach.
Yeah, SJV's been on a roll the last couple of weeks. They were playing great defense, like you had spoke on, putting some points up with the Rosado boy at quarterback. Donovan Catholic, obviously, after the imposed sanction that came down of losing, taking the wins away, what happened there? They played hard. They're obviously going to play hard the rest of the season and see where it plays out. We'll talk later on about that, obviously. But we'll see where it plays out when it comes out to seedings and where it goes.
Now, Coach, the last game, and I'm going to say this, there was a performance by a young man a senior, for Brick, the number 17th ranked Brick, won 24-12 against Ocean. Senior running back Tyler Weiseneck, 306 yards rushing. Coach, that's a career. 306 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns on 25 carries. And then here's another one. Justin Kirch, 3 interceptions. And he also scored a touchdown, too. So that was 2 guys that just had a great game. Credit to those 2 guys. Brick is quietly 4-1.
Yep.
Quietly 4-1. Lost a heartbreaker to Lacey, and they're quietly 4-1. They really are. And I told that to Lenny. Lenny Zadanowicz, you're quietly 4-1. They're winning with the run. They're playing good defense. They're probably lulling you to sleep. And then you finally realize that you lost against a very physical football team.
Yep. Just think of the rushing average per carry for only 25 carries for 306 yards.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Coach, it's the time of the show. I do this, Dan. Hey, here's what I think of last week's games.
That's it. It's over.
I don't know who's picking that up, but I'm done talking about last week's games. All right. We got too much to look forward to right now. That's over with, man. All right. And we're going to get to, oops, my bad. We are going to get to
The top 20.
We're going to talk coaches' top 20, a bunch of movement happening, and a couple of new guys coming in. So let's look at the coaches' top 20, Coach. Here we go. This week's Week 6 short conference football coaches' top 20 poll. Coach, before we talk about it, there was 26 coaches, again, that voted for this week's top 20. And very interesting. I love the fact that everybody's all in and with the votes, and take the floor right now. And what's the difference between this one and last week's?
The main difference I saw with the upsets that we've touched on in the beginning of our show, the upsets that took place last week, there was a lot of dropping this week as opposed to gaining.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you had a Colts Neck team last week was ranked 7. They dropped 6 spots down to 13. Mm-hmm. Or a team like Lacey Township ranked 11th that drops down to 15 this week after their tough loss. And then Freehold, obviously their loss, which was a little bit of an upset, drops down 4 spots from 12 last week to 16. Then you had some gains this week. You had Brick Township with a big game. They gained 3 spots. They're moved up from 17 to 14. Middletown North gained from 14 up to 11 this week. Point Barrow, who just keeps on rolling, that I said a couple weeks ago, this is a top 10 team. They're jumped up 15 up to 12. And then Squan with a huge win. They moved from 13 up to 10. But then you had 3 non-rated teams. They broke the top 20.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't want to harp on the teams going down. I want to talk a little bit about those 3 teams you talked about, because those teams are scary teams in Manasquan, Middletown North, and Point Barrow. Point Barrow is 4-0, and they're clicking. And, I think this is their year. This is their year right now, and they got a good group of guys, and they're young at a lot of positions, but there's a lot of excitement there with the Panthers. And Middletown North is a very, very solid football team, offensively, defensively, and they can beat you with the run and pass equally with that. And Manasquan is a team that has played a tough schedule. They lost to Middletown South, and they lost to Red Bank Catholic. And if you're looking on there, those 2 teams are 2-4. So you take them away from Manasquan, they're undefeated. So they're a good football team with that. And it's always nice to see. I always like when new teams come in. I don't like when teams leave, but there'll be more teams that come on and off as we speak. But those new teams in Asbury Park, Holmdale's fighting back and forth in and out, and St. John Vianney too. A credit to those guys. But Asbury Park was so excited to be in it, and it really is nice when you got programs that are excited about that. Now, Central's moving up, like you said, is they're getting to the point now where there's not a lot of movement up top. Maybe there might be after this week, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. But it's nice. It's getting everybody's kind of getting cemented into certain spots, and it's turning into a real solid top 20.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously up at the top there, there's a little bit of an issue, where we feel teams should be ranked,
Yes.
by record, or who's voting for who they think is a stronger team and who's not a stronger team. This is where it kind of gets a little bit of a hairy right now. And we're going to talk about that when it comes down to championship odds and everything. But Central Regional sitting at 5-0 is 8, and obviously the things that have come down with Donovan Catholic, they're sitting at 3 at 1-4. This is where it starts to get a little bit of a hairy situation now.
Yeah, but again, a credit to all the short conference coaches.
And again,
26 of them. Yep.
I was going to say, this is all coming from the coaches' peers. So this is what they're saying, that this is where they think that these teams are, who they feel are the stronger teams. Yep.
Yeah. Now the guys that are on the bottom looking in, you got like Marlboro, Monmouth, Raritan, Brick Memorial, Howell, Barnegat, Keyport, Township, Keensburg, South, and Manchester. Their peers have voted them somewhere in this poll. Says a lot about the depth of our short conference, Coach.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. And to touch on it too, if you look all the way down to 14, you got a team like Brick Township is 4-1. Yeah. That's why you're, I shouldn't say but short conference, the short football report top 20 that we do with the coaches poll, you're looking all the way down. If you just did a cutoff at 10, you're not talking about a Middletown North or a Point Borough or a Colts Neck or Brick Township. That's why this is a great, great thing that was created here with a top 20.
Yeah. Yep. It's very positive. The coaches are bought in. And you know what? The fans love it too, because there's a lot of good football out there in the short conference, and I'm excited every week to showcase it. Go. Our special guest, head football coach, Coach Hill from Howell Rebels football, coming off a huge upset win at Lacey, 33-28. Coach, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your first win at your alma mater, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Very excited for the kids. They persevered and they hung in there. It's just a great win against a really solid football team.
Wow. And wow, talk about shifts of momentum in that game. Now, I wasn't there, but I heard about it. And can you just walk us through it, the different shifts? You were down 21-0 at one point. Right. Is that correct? To come back and win and have one of the biggest wins in the short conference up to this date right now, Coach. So tell us a little bit about that game.
Well, I watched Lacey play Rumson, and for the first half, they played 7-7. They played toe-to-toe, and they just played physical. Both teams played physical power football. So I'm just trying to put 8 in the box, the first couple series. These guys go play action before you know it, it's 14-0. So now I got to change philosophy a little bit. I mean, I think anybody would expect a physical team like Lacey to just, pound it down your throat. Then actually the first series, we went down the field pretty good, but, we just kind of missed out a little bit on fourth down on a couple plays. And then they hit me with a reverse pass. Then it was 21-0. We took a kick. So now you're down 21. So I tell the kids, just keep fighting, just keep fighting. It's a long game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ran a kick. Connor Gordon, it wasn't 81. It was a 95-yard kickoff return back for a touchdown. And so a couple times, so we kicked the ball off a couple times to him. It was down 13. It was 21-13. So we decided to kind of squib it down on the second half kickoff, and they took that back. Now it's 28-13. And that was the last time they scored on us. Defense kind of played well the third and fourth quarter. So they didn't score the second half on offense on us.
No, Coach.
And
that name, Connor Gordon, we want to talk about later.
Yeah. And then we had a couple good series. We had a few series on offense, a few stops on defense, and the kids just played lights out. Just how the game played out.
That was an incredible win, Coach. And guys shine at different times. And that name you just said before, Connor Gordon, your running back, senior, had 4 touchdowns, Coach, correct?
Correct.
132 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, but it was 95-yard kick return.
Yeah, 95 yards.
95. Wow, that's incredible. Big. So he just had the game of his life on the biggest stage out there at Lacey, man. Tell me a little bit about Connor and how happy you were to see him shine like that. Were you surprised, or it wasn't a surprise?
Not really. I think preseason I talked well about him. He was hurt after the first game of the season. He didn't play against Brick Dragons, and he was still a little sore last week against Middletown North. So now he's running on 100% cylinder right now. So he's a tough kid, plays hard, but he's finding his groove. and we rotated another back, Dalton, in there because he kind of starts on defense. So the whole running game went well. The running game went well.
Coach, and we all know that to have a good run game, it starts up front. And these five linemen, Coach, I want to bring up to you and tell me a little bit about it. A veteran, a very mature line with one underclassman. That's the center, the junior center, Riley Johnson. But Matt Ioannidis, Stanley Fedorovic, Mike Mitchell, and Jackson Floyd. Those five linemen really set the tone for Connor Gordon to have such a big game, right?
That's Mitchell, Ioannidis, Riley Johnson's junior, and you have Jackson Floyd and Stan Fedorovic, right?
Yeah.
They played great football. They played great football.
That's awesome.
They got to take the hats off to them.
Now, Coach, we're talking about your run game, but the pass game has been something special at Howell. It really has, and it's been by committee, the receivers. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Stephen Jordan, your quarterback, he threw for 245 and a touchdown, and he's thrown for 749 this year and 5 touchdowns. Pretty surprised. It's his first year starting, isn't it?
Yeah, this is his first year. I think he came in the second half against Marlboro last year. They had a pretty good game. And then in the last game of the season, he had a good game. So we kind of anticipated him having pretty good receivers. We're long with all our receivers. Maloney, Jack, Beck, both tight ends, a sophomore Declan, and you got Damien. We're 6'2". You got some guys who got pretty good targets with pretty good hands. So we're just trying to find our niche to mix up the running and pass. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's pretty nice that
we lost some games. We lost a couple close games, but we played. We could have won them, but we still played bad enough to lose the game. So you can't really complain about it. We had some mistakes overall, even coaching mistakes. So we're just trying to get better each week.
Yeah, I want to get to that in a second, Coach. But when you have 4 wide receivers that can equally have the same stats as the next guy next to him, that's weapons. And you got a quarterback that can throw the football. And we're going to talk about those tight games that you lost that could easily have been wins. But you and your new staff is growing with the guys and beating Lacey and then looking into the future. And we're going to talk about that in a second. It's got to be exciting right now. But those 4 wide receivers that you have, Coach Versillo told me you have a bunch of long receivers that can catch the football, and he thought you were a very scary football team. And he said that you're getting better each week. This is coming from Coach Versillo, and he said you deserve that win because you really took it to him with that. So he was very happy for you guys.
Lose a class act. Yeah. I mean, that team. Listen, a play here or there. They're still going to the states. I mean, they're a state caliber football team. I told those guys, keep their heads up. They're a solid team. You know, a football game of interest, a couple plays here and there changes the complex of the game. And they're a solid football team. I really like their football team.
Coach, I wanted you on this show not only for your win, but you're also, I think that you're an up-and-coming team right now because we talked through the weeks. I mean, you lost a tight one to Brick Memorial, 32-27. So your first game at Howell was a nail-biter, and you lost, but it was a high-scoring game. Could have gone either way. You lost 32-27 there. Then you played the rival of Brick Memorial, Brick, and lost 12-7 in a defensive struggle game right there. And then it took you to Middletown North, which is, they kind of got you a little bit there, and it took us to Lacey. So you, in 3 of the 4 games, that could have switched to you could be 3-1 with a play here or there. And it's got to get you excited now going into a big game against a rival school, Marlboro, with a big win at Lacey. And they're coming off 3 big wins in their first 3 games, Marlboro. They lost, of course, to Central last week. So this is a big build-up game because I see this game right here at Marlboro being a way that you might be able to vault into maybe the playoff picture with a lot of PowerPoints on here, Coach. How excited are you guys about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Marlboro, a real good football team. We played them last year. They were a very physical football team, and we played them to a close game last year. So we had a 7-on-7 with the district. You kind of understand what they're trying to do a little bit. We're excited, but like I say, we got to take each game one at a time. And just we went down to Lacey. I mean, it was hard. You're in the meeting, you're watching Middletown North and Lacey play, and then we get beat 42. We put up 42
Mhm.
points on us, and Lacey beat them. I just give the kids credit for believing in what we were saying. Just keep pounding,
Yeah.
man. Just do offensively, do what you do, and defensively do what you do, and just let the game take care of itself. So I was proud of the kids. Down 21 up, they easily could have fell off. Now you're going into Marlboro. You can't. You got to forget about the Lacey game now, and you got to put 100% focus on Marlboro because it's a good football team. It's
Yeah.
very. This the best start they had in a long time.
Yeah, 20
The
years.
coach
Yeah.
is a district coach is a real good coach. He had a good staff. I saw them turn it around
Mhm.
the last couple of years. So just excited to be a part of this.
Yeah. Now, Howell and Marlboro in the same district, right? The Freehold district.
Correct.
How important is this game in your district? Is it a big thing where when your sister schools play each other, like a Tom's River did, Howell and Marlboro?
Yeah, I think it kind of is because, I mean, the Marlboro, it's a lot of the district stuff, but just in general, I mean, a lot of kids in Howell, about 5 minutes from my house and where I went to school at, in Ardena School,
Oh,
across the
really?
street those kids go to Coast Neck.
Hmm.
Kids go across to Freehold Township. So you get a lot of kids that play in your organization in Pop Warner. But we don't lose guys to Marlboro, but they're playing well against everybody.
Hmm.
So like Dave Ellis at Freehold Bro, Dave played for me down in Lakewood in '96,
Hmm.
one of my best players. So this whole district thing is you got competition throughout the whole district. Manalapan, of course, with Dom and Cody. You know, the district is very exciting.
And you still got to play Freehold Township, which is
Yes.
in your district, and then the pod play. So you don't know who you're playing with that. So you got to be
Right.
looking forward, Coach. You get that first win after real tough losses prior to that. You got to be excited. Was your practice a little different the next day when you guys after your win? Did the kids start believing and get excited? How are they reacting?
I think we had a long week this week, so we gave them Saturday off and came in and practiced yesterday for a while. They're excited, but like I say, you got to forget about that game,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got to move forward. I mean, when you had like 250 yards rushing and 250, about 450 altogether
Mm-hmm.
offensive yards and another 150 on return yardage, that I don't know if I've ever been a part of that before on a team.
They probably
So
slept
they
well.
gotta,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So now that's not going to happen, and so every game. So I think the kids are focused. They want to win, and I said that from the beginning. They believe in what we're teaching, and they're working hard.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard that win, Coach, I was smiling. You're one of the good guys in the short conference. Always getting your first win is the hardest one to get. The second one comes a little easier. Just getting familiar with everybody in the program. But it was very important that you got hired this year because you knew the guys coming into the season
Yes,
too. Great.
yeah, that was. I thought that was a nice little thing because last year, listen, last year in the 6 games we played, the defense only gave up 75 points. Other points came off interception. But you lost some linebackers and safeties. The middle of your defense was kind of gutted. So the first few games, like only a couple guys played defense last year. Then you're playing Brick Memorial. I mean, Brick with their
Mhm.
deceptions, defective type plays. Your eyes all over them. We're trying to get the kids to just stay on your assignments.
Mhm.
And we felt that Lacey was going to be more right at you type of things. We felt good about that, but it still was Lacey. You watch the Rumson game, it's still Lacey. So now, each team has a different little flavor about them of what they want to do. We feel pretty good about it. We had lost Gardenstein in the Middletown North game, so we're 100% healthy right now. So it's the first time since week one we got everybody back healthy. So
Yeah.
this is everybody's working hard.
Well, Coach, I promised you I was only going to keep you for 15 minutes. I didn't want to take up a lot of your time because Tuesdays are very important.
Yeah, we're still watching film.
Watching film,
Yeah.
there's not enough hours in a day to watch film with that. But, real excited for you, Coach. Seeing you smile in the pictures that were taken after the game and all that really
Oh
is,
yeah,
really,
they were
it's a
nice.
nice feeling. It really is. Everybody was excited. And I coached at Lacey, so I know that's a really hard place to win at. And Lacey was sitting very comfortable in their division. They just beat Middletown North. They beat Brick.
Right.
They're roll, and then I heard 21-0, and then I heard you guys won. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it was 21-0. They haven't even ran the ball yet. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not expecting these guys to, but they know how they get their offense.
Mm-hmm.
They attack the whole field. If you cheat on one aspect of the other, they'll take advantage. But they're a very good football team. They should not, look at that game. Things happen. Things happen. So that to me, I think they're a solid team, and they're going to be a playoff team.
Yep. And, you keep going at it, Coach. You keep playing consistent football. The ball will go on your side more than not. And who knows what Marlboro, Friel Township, and 2 pod games that are be randomly selected for you guys. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But I know
Right.
you're real tough with your schedule. So you're proving that you played some tough teams, and you're a scary team right now. You're a 1-3 team that's kind of been pretty battle tested, I would say, right now.
Oh, well, I said at the beginning of the season, I mean, you got Brick Memorial, those guys have been together for 10, 15 years, been in the state playoffs, like, Walt and Lenny, great guys. I know guys are friends of mine. And you got Bush down there in Middletown North. He's as solid as they come, coached in the NFL. Then you go down to, so you're looking at, there was nothing on there to say you guarantee to win any of these games. So we're just being able to play tough. The kids, listen, they're buying into what we're trying to do, and we're just trying to put the right guys in there. Made a couple changes on the defense, offensively. So we just kind of go out there every day and try to work hard every day.
Coach, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really, really do appreciate it, and all the Shore Conference fans are gonna appreciate seeing you talk on here, and looking forward to watching you next week to keep the winning ways going. So, in an exciting game, which will be one of the featured games in the Shore Conference. 3-1 Marlboro versus 1-3 Howell, and the winner is going to take a big step in the playoff picture.
Correct.
Or playoff picture, Coach. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Coach. And you need anything, the Shore Football Report's there for you guys.
Hey, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach. Tell Coach Generelli I said hello.
Take care now. Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Coach, let's talk quickly about the Shore Conference Tournament Final Four. The POD word, I don't want to say pod, but that last one, the top 4. And here's 2 scenarios. Are you considering Donovan Catholic, or are you not considering Donovan Catholic? So let's go over 2 scenarios. Let's say the people on the committee, whoever it is, I hate the word committee. Who's on the committee? All right, good. It should be open. But let's say Donovan Catholic is considered having a valid chance to be in it. Here are the scenarios. Would you agree or disagree? Rumson, RBC are basically short shot guys.
Absolutely agree. At this point in time, I agree 1,000%.
If they lose, Rumson, RBC, I'm going to have a bad stomach virus. I'll tell you that. That big upset. Now, with that being done and said, there are probably 7, maybe 8 teams that are going to say, why not me? Why not me?
Correct.
If Donovan Catholic is going to have a chance to be in there by the committee, then the next game with them, Donovan Catholic versus Wall, winner's in.
I agree.
Would you agree?
I agree.
That winner of that game,
and it's a replay of last year's so-called Shore Conference Championship game too.
Okay, so with that being done and said, the question is, does Donovan Catholic have a chance to be in it? If they do, the winner of that game is in. This is if Donovan Catholic is allowed to be in by the committee. So that's settled. There's one more spot. Now, do you give it to the winner of the division of Middletown South, Southern, and Manalapan? Well, if Middletown South goes undefeated, if they go undefeated, and they still have, and you got Long Branch. Now, Central still has to play Southern. A lot of things have to happen on that. I would have to say Middletown South or a Long Branch. Can Long Branch jump over Middletown South?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, you're talking, there's 17, there's 6 teams right now in the Shore Conference that are undefeated, but those teams that you mentioned right now between Central, Long Branch, and South, who can jump over who with what's going forward? I mean, again, the Donovan Catholic thing of where they're sitting, are they in or are they out? That has a lot to say of what 2 teams can move into that spot right now. I mean, I have my own personal opinions on it.
Right.
It's tough to see a team. You have to kind of look at records. I mean, they're technically 1-4 right now.
Yeah, I mean,
again, you said the word committee. I also understand that was no doing of the football program itself of the error that was said by the athletic director. What went on?
Here's my thing, Coach. Are they student athletes?
Yes.
Yes. Student athletes. So you're talking institution and football.
Correct.
They did them wrong.
Correct.
Oh, I'm going to say that again. If you're going to say, well, football was right and not them, do you talk about just football and school different? It's together. When you're a program, it's your school and your program working together. So if I'm playing devil's advocate right now, so if you're a student athlete, we're talking the football side of Donovan Catholic being in there. But the school admitted that they did not follow certain guidelines and rules that everybody else did. It happens. They were 0-4. And I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not throwing my stuff in there.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir. It happened to me 3 years ago where my head coach and assistant head coach had to be suspended for 5 games because certain policies and procedures that they were supposed to do did not get accomplished. So they were banned for coaching for 5 games. So I understand again, it was just an administrative error, but that's what happened.
You can say, hey, it wasn't him, it was me. But you're part of the short conference and you're an institution. You're a school. You go to school first and that. So if you do what coach, if you do what you're supposed to do in school, you're able to play football.
Yes.
So in that case, if the school didn't do what they were supposed to do, then how can you enhance them to play in the state the short conference tournament? All I'm saying right now, I'm playing both sides of the fence. But if you don't do it right, from the school to the field as an athlete, you can't play. So if you don't do it right from the school to the field, then how can you say, don't worry about those 4 losses, even though those teams are undefeated over there, you need to play? No. It's kind of a tricky thing, but to me, there's a lot of teams that are undefeated right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, and again, I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't. I'm playing both sides of the fence right now. They're 1-4. They're 1-4. If anybody else was 1-4, you're 1-4. So that's what it is. So for right now, let's talk about the committee not taking Donovan Catholic. So if Donovan Catholic beats Wall, they're both out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the other scenario. If Wall beat Donovan Catholic, they have a good chance of making it. Let's just say Donovan Catholic beat Wall. Now you got Middletown South, you got Long Branch, you got Central with that Cinderella season. There's a big fight for 2 spots if Donovan Catholic is not going to make it by the committee standpoint. That's all we're saying now. If you came into this conversation a little late, a lot of interesting stories. Central with the Cinderella, Long Branch. I'm going to consider them Cinderella. They had a losing record last year, and Danny George's last year. I mean, boy, oh boy, it's tough to keep a team undefeated out of a top 4.
Right.
It
That's
really is.
why you and I both are in an absolute agreement when we talk about these pods. And who are you to say what is a championship pod and what is not a championship pod? So let's just say a hypothetical here. A Long Branch doesn't make the top so-called championship pod.
Right.
Central Regional doesn't make the championship pod. Say Middletown South is kept out of that championship pod by Donovan Catholic and their Wall. So those 3 teams that are undefeated at that point, they don't belong up there. Listen, you play the teams that you're scheduled to play. You have no control on that. So do you hold it against the team because you think that strength of schedule is that much more tougher than the other, when all they did is exactly what they're supposed to do, win the games that they play?
You ready for this one? Middletown South. If Middletown South and Southern and Manalapan all share it, 3-way tie, that opens the door for Long Branch. Right?
It's amazing.
Like, how do you take one of those teams that share that division, you leapfrog Long Branch and maybe Central? Now, Central's got to play Southern. Here's one for you. If Southern beat Middletown South,
yep,
they're both got 1 loss. Central comes in,
beats
Southern. You got to now magnify that. So if you're Central, you want Southern to beat Middletown South, and you want to play Southern when they have, all the chips in their place and beat them. So there's still a lot of interesting potential matchups. Again, What are they doing with Donovan Catholic? Now, this all could change if Wall just beats Donovan Catholic.
Correct.
And then if Wall does, then they deserve to beat him because Donovan Catholic's a very good football team.
Yeah.
So if Wall beats Donovan Catholic, there might be one slot open because you got to give it to Wall, defending champ, all that stuff right there. But if they don't want Donovan Catholic to be in it for whatever reason, again, it's a committee, and committee's more than one opinion in there.
Yeah.
Then it's opening up a can of worms for a lot of teams that are still practicing and playing strong right now, undefeated. Very interesting. I can guarantee you one thing, though, Coach. You ready for this? I'm glad I'm not on the committee.
Yeah. I can guarantee you one thing. Both you and I would love to have an ear in that meeting to hear the debates going back and forth of what's going on. Exactly.
I bet you, man. But I am not envious of not being on that committee.
Yeah.
I'm a great Monday morning quarterback. It's the only time I can play quarterback. It's a Monday morning. I have all the answers. I got all the throws in me. But you know what? Right now, you ask me opinion, I'm going to play both sides of the fence. I'm going to make everybody happy. That's what I'm going to do. All right? So it'll clear up next week. And hopefully the next week it will be even more clear. But as long as Donovan Catholic's winning and, those questions are going to be asked.
Yeah.
I would love for the committee to do their selections live on our show.
Okay. Be public about it.
On our show.
Yep.
Do you think we can get ratings that way?
I think we might get a little bit of a bump. Yep.
That would be awesome.
Maybe that's what happens as El Presidente of the Shore Conference football coach. You might say, listen, let's get a representative on from the committee to talk about it.
Or what I'll do is my cell phone, I'll put in the pocket of one of the ADs and I'll press record and we're going to listen to it live. Right? And they'll never know it. We'll just delete all the negative things they say about me and you on there. Right? You only hear is boop, boop, boop. Right? We'll delete that. But that would be awesome. I may get fired, but it might be worth it to get a couple more views on our show. So don't count that out. I'm going to trust everybody on this show. Do not say that you heard what I said. All right?
Exactly.
Just in case. All right? Because I'll plead. I didn't do it.
Between us.
All right, Coach. Now let's talk about Week 6, this weekend's football games. So let's do our breakdown. We do it as quick as we could, but we give every school love. And we talk about
42 teams get love. Yep.
This week there's 20 games. So there's 40 teams. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. 3-2 Keensburg at 2-2 Pinelands Regional. Interesting game, Coach, because we've said the word upset a lot tonight with last week's games. And I'm not saying it's happening, but I'm gonna now be not so surprised if a team like Pinelands at home knocks out Keensburg, who's a very good football program. But Pinelands right now is playing tough in their division. They played Monmouth very tough, 28-14. They lost to Keyport very, very close. I'm going to tell you right now,
close, yeah.
To me, and I don't like to give out my picks a lot, but to all you guys who like to gamble out there, I'm going to give you a little tip. This game right here has maybe upset alert on it, I believe, because I think Pinelands is going to be tough to play at home. They play a packed house. Now, Mackay Braithwaite, how do you say his name, Coach?
Mackay Braithwaite.
Him, he's tough to stop. I mean, that's a tough thing to do on a Friday night, and I know he's just as good on defense and he's good on offense, but Pinelands' philosophy on offense with playing in a phone booth might be the way to go to beat Keensburg. And I would not be surprised in a very equal playing field in that division if Pinelands knocks off Keensburg. And I'm saying that with a lot of respect because I think a lot of Coach Bird, but I think Pinelands might be a team that, mark my words, next week might have a chance to be on the upset.
Yeah,
they're playing.
Pinelands goes with the same game mentality they did against a high-powered Keyport offense of controlling the ball, controlling the clock, they're going to be in this game with Keensburg, but we've said it before, and we'll say it, I'm sure, again during the rest of the season. Keensburg's going to go as McKay Braithwaite goes. The last 2 weeks they're on a little bit of a roll, but you have to travel to Pinelands. We both know that walk. That is such a long walk out to that football field on a Friday night with Pineland. So it's a good game.
Yeah, so that's going to be an exciting game right there, Coach. 0-4 Lakewood versus 3-1 Keyport. Keyport had a little bit of a bump last week. DJ Thompson, George Mitchell, Treadwell, really tough, outstanding football players, having a great season. Lakewood's having a little bit down year. They seem like they give a little spurts here or there. LJ, how he gets his team to play, and it's going to be a tough game, though. It's going to be a tough game because Keyport is having an outstanding season with Coach Glesman. They really are. And they're playing home right there with that.
Yeah, this will find out, the moxie of Keyport coming off a tough divisional loss to Monmouth, who really ran the ball well last week against them, to see what goes on. If Keyport bounces back really strong this week against a Group 3 team, I don't care about records. It's still a Group 3 team that's coached up coming to Keyport.
Yeah.
Then you're going to see that Keyport team is going to really make some noise in that Group 1 Central Jersey this year.
A lot of power points are riding on this game, too, for Keyport. Really are. And we got to start talking about that now. 1-4 Point Beach versus Monmouth 4-1. Point Beach comes in with a lot of hustle, a lot of hard work they did put in the weeks, and they've been falling short, but they're giving it their all. They really have, the small school in Point Beach. And now Monmouth, one of the bigger teams in the division, who's 4-1 right now and playing good football, and they're winning the trenches. They have athletes on the perimeter, but for the first time in a couple years, Monmouth is winning the trenches, Coach. They have not in the past. They've had athletes on the perimeter and weren't as productive in the trenches, but this is the turning point this year, is that I call them the skilled big guys up front are doing a real nice job for Monmouth. So I see Monmouth winning by a couple scores against Point Beach, but Point Beach you got to love them. They fight for their every single play, every single game, and they definitely play for their coach, and it says a lot about Coach Zaccone and their program. But they're at an uphill battle right now playing Monmouth, is playing good football and looking for the playoffs, and also want to win that division title without sharing it. Would you agree?
Yeah, Point Beach is definitely taking on the identity of Coach Zaccone as a gritty, all-in type of team, but seeing Monmouth Regional play for the first time last week live, how they they run the ball really well, did a great job game planning against Keyport, controlling the ball, and they play great defense too. They cause turnovers. So Point Beach got a tough matchup here with Monmouth. Monmouth controls their destiny with this division, this game.
Now, little rivalry, 1-4 Toms River East versus 1-3 Toms River North. Now, Toms River North, and let's make no bones about it, plays in the SEC. All right, the American Division. I think they play everybody except Alabama so far. So they're now out of the division, and they're playing a crosstown rival, who Toms River East is playing in a different division. Don't look at the record. Toms River North is 1-3, but they're battling against the best teams in the short conference every single week. Toms River North is going to be a tough team in this game right here. They've been battling out. Toms River East has been up and down. I mean, they had that big win against Toms River South a couple weeks ago. Maybe they turn one out against North and win over Toms River, or Toms River North lets them know that they're going nowhere and this is still our town. Very interesting. Micaiah Ford is a key kid. Kalinowski, Ty Kalinowski, the linebacker, tight end, is an exceptional football player. They have all their linemen who are playing well, but I think Micaiah Ford is the difference maker in this game.
Yeah, I think you said it best with Toms River North. They're battle tested with the amount of games and the competition they've played this year with that division, and battled really well. Even though Coach Oz said they're young, but they've battled. So Toms River East is the Raiders got an uphill climb this week. But again, throw it out the window. You're talking inner city rivalry right here, East against North, A South matchup. History here. But Toms River North should be okay.
Freehold Township at Neptune. Freehold Township looked like they were down and out. And then Mark Aguero, the sophomore quarterback, throws for 407 yards. And we start scratching our head, Coach. It's one of those games going, did I read it wrong? They just beat Mattawa 29-0 when they were on the other end of it in those other games, Freehold, losing decisively like that. So now they got a little bit of juice playing a Neptune team under first-year coach Brian Duffy. I mean, is this Neptune's chance to say, "Ha we're gonna take this"? It wouldn't surprise me this year if a Neptune team comes out coming off a bye. They're getting acclimated to Coach Duffy's routine and philosophy and all that stuff. And Neptune, they play tough for a part of the game and then they fall out because they don't have the numbers. I mean, who knows? Could this be an upset special here?
I mean, I don't know yet if Neptune's at that level yet. I do know with, obviously Coach Pugh, the defense coordinator I've coached with the last, 3 years prior, he's going to devise something to be able to stop that air raid offense. And, somebody that puts up 400 yards passing, that's something you got to pay attention to. But Neptune was close the last game that they played. They lost by 7 points and played to a tough game. Who knows? They might turn the corner here, but Freehold Township looks like Coach Davies finally found his niche going on with the offense.
Yeah, I mean, if he can get that second one under his belt, Coach Davies, who knows? Maybe a nice stretch run into the end of the season. And that P word, what is it, pods? I don't want to say it, but I got to, who knows with that. So that should be an interesting game. Next, 1-3 Howell versus 3-1 Marlboro. Now,
I don't know here.
I'm going to tell you right now. The average fan is going to pick Marlboro. Marlboro 3-1. They've looked good in their games. They fell against Central. Howell, they're 1-3. You just look at it and close the paper. They played 2 close games. Went down to the wire, loss against Brick Moyle and Brick, and then they beat Lacey. I think this right here is a making of an upset.
Yeah. I mean, after what Howell was able to do last week, taking down a really, really good Lacey team, Marlboro's coming off a really decidingly tough loss against Central, who really, they ran it up a little bit. I mean, does Marlboro bounce back and get their season back on track where they were, or is Howell starting to progress to the next level? Coach Hill saying, okay, now we have our identity, we know what we can do, and now they're starting to buy into what he's teaching. This is a really tough game to look at right here.
Very interesting game. It would not surprise me if either one won, but I mean, I think Howell has played the tougher schedule.
Yeah.
Marlboro's on a roll. You throw out the records; they're rival schools.
Yeah.
Very, very, very interesting with that. You know what's awesome, Coach? We don't give out who we're picking, but are we giving out too much information? Maybe the fans might know what's going on. I might turn a flip and just go totally south the other way. You never know when you're listening to us what we're going to do on Friday. I might get a little tip from a phone call or a little bird that might flip it right there. And you never know. 1-3 Raritan versus Red Bank 2-3. You and I were just talking about that earlier. Red Bank, this is, again, I hate to see one team lose because I think they're both well-coached teams. Coach Fallon's first year with Red Bank, and he's getting in the groove and learning the different kids and their play. And Raritan with Coach Petrus has an established staff he's had for years, and little injury bug, that's affecting them. Again, one of the losses is Red Bank Catholic. To me, it takes 2 weeks to recover when you play RBC. That sometimes teams don't recover the physicality of a Red Bank Catholic. So now Raritan's playing Red Bank in almost like a must-win. This is a must-win for both teams to establish themselves in the state playoffs. There really is. Now they got some of those enhanced bonus points, Raritan playing RBC, but it's going to be nice to get a win against Red Bank, which will present a lot of power points.
I agree. Red Bank, you got to take last week's game off the table. Red Bank Regional playing RBC. RBC is just that much of a class above everybody in the short conference. But Red Bank put together, a 2-game winning streak prior to that game. Raritan's starting to get a lot of players back, get them healthy. And like we had spoken about before with Coach Petruzzi, he has made that run where he's railed off consecutive games going through. This is a big game going towards the states to see who's going to make that run towards that state playoff run.
He's been 3-5 before and has made a run in the state playoffs. You know that, holding that trophy nice and high. All right. And I'm sure he has the kids this year too to do it. And you never know. Maybe this might be a mirror of a couple years ago, Coach. You never know. But interesting. All right. 3-2, Asbury Park, who's excited, who jumped into our top 20 at 18, is playing Manchester 2-3. A very interesting game right here.
Athletes galore on the field.
You can say that. The quarterback position specifically and receivers. You have Jashawn Brown, the quarterback at Asbury Park, 6'5", 180-pound kid throwing darts all over it, and Savon Meyer, who was a second-team All-Shore quarterback, who's 6'5" and 225, like a Cam Newton type of guy. Savon's got Damari Brown. That's a two-way player, outstanding wide receiver. And Asbury Park's got a bunch of receivers, a bunch of them, Coach, that can turn it from one week to the next. Asbury Park won me over last week, winning 42-7 against Barnegat. Now they're playing Manchester, who Barnegat beat. So this is going to be a tough game for Manchester, but I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Wilkinson, upsets Asbury Park, and it would be an upset if they did beat Asbury Park, because right now I think Asbury Park is really rolling. They really are.
I think you just hit it on the head. I think Asbury jumping out so fast against Barnegat last week and playing good lockdown D, holding a really good Barnegat team to 7 points. Playing a team that Manchester has already lost to. But again, they play the game on the field, not on paper. But there's the one thing we can guarantee, both you and I, Coach, is that there are some major athletes. If you want to see some firepower on that field, that's a game to go see.
Coach, as a coach, how many times people say this as a coach? You need to get on this team early and don't give them any life, because if you give them life, they're scary. 3 plays later, Asbury Park's winning 7-0.
All the time.
The quote's in. Yep, good. All right, here we go. Number 17, Shore Regional, who's 3-1, is playing Jackson Liberty, who is 1-4. Coach, let me just say one thing. I did our top 20. I sent it out. I made one mistake. One little mistake. And now I know Coach Kaz watches our videos because he corrected me. He goes, we're not 3-2. So I got you, Kaz. I got you. I had to redo the whole thing and do it because he's right. They're 3-1. And he's 3-1. And boy, oh boy, man, he has got these guys playing at such a high level. I know he's got Jamie Mizaka, who's a stud senior, but he's got a lot of young guys, young by experience and young by age, playing at Shore. But they are playing good ball, and they're looking at extending their winning ways against the Jackson Liberty, who struggled all year. They played tough football defensively and all that, having trouble moving the football. They're very young, but Shore Regional right now is playing at a real high level.
Yeah, and Shore's starting to creep up the top 20 coaches ranking here. Now they're up to 17. Shore's starting to become what we know Shore is. They had a signature win over Barnegat, which is a really good Barnegat team. They're really starting to climb. And again, this is big power points for Shore as well when you start looking at playoff rankings with Jackson Liberty with the group points. So this is going to be a good game for Shore to really start to distance himself out.
Yeah, Coach, the next game is interesting. You got 2 teams coming off loss, 2 teams in the top 20. You got number 16, 3-2 Freehold Borough playing the number 20 ranked team, 2-3 St. John Vianney. Now, here's what I think, Coach, as a coach thinking of this game. I think Freehold Borough's offense versus St. John Vianney's defense.
And if I may, Coach, and you and I both know because we look at all aspects, a Freehold Borough team with the amount of speed and athleticism that plays on a grass field at home, now going to a turf field on Friday night, how fast do they become there?
Excellent. Good. Excellent. Yes. Well, that's not my problem. That's Vianney's problem.
That used to be our problem when we used to think about things like that. Exactly.
Yeah, great.
Because I know how I used to keep that grass down at Barnegat, my friend.
Yeah. We watered it down. Really did. But St. John Vianney defensively, they're giving up 216 a game, and Freehold Burrows averaging 330. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. You know, maybe it's the other side of the ball. Maybe Burrow's defense against the offense, or I don't know. But that's a great matchup, a great defense, and a great offense playing. And both teams need a win, and both teams deserve a win because they're very athletic teams. Coach, you know that, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Kamar Gill, as good as anybody out there, Coach. As good as anybody out there.
Yep.
I mean, he could run and 724 yards of passing he has, and he has 690. So he has almost 1,400 yards of offense. And I think he even caught a pass, too. So the guy does everything.
It's amazing throughout the recent history with Burrow, what they do with that quarterback one level, you know, the yardage that is put up with that empty backfield set that Coach Ellis is running, you know. This is gonna be a really good game on Friday night at St. John Vianney.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very good game. That's gonna affect the top 20. Loser may unfortunately leave the top 20. And that's sad because that's two good football teams right there. You got number 15, Lacey, who's 2-2, Coach, coming off a pretty tough loss against Brick Memorial, who's also 2-2. Now, Brick Memorial could play spoiler. Could this be an upset alert? At Brick Memorial, and it's crazy to play there. Those fans are crazy in a good way, because Brick Memorial, if they beat Lacey, they knocked Lacey solely out of the division title. Lacey can only win a share of the title because Brick Memorial, Middletown North, one of those guys will do it. Now, you know, both teams came off losses. It's always good when a team comes off a loss that you're playing another team with a loss. Somebody's got to win the game. Lacey's physical. Brick Memorial is very finesse, but they still run that power game. You know, if you're looking at the football with Coach Curry, they might hypnotize it, but they're still running power. They do a little RPOs and all that stuff to kind of give you a different mirage like that. But interesting game. Lacey Brick Memorial games are always tight. They're always tight, Coach.
Again, you're talking historic and South, matchup here. You know, does Lacey come back after a loss to Howell that really, kind of shook your head a little bit that you didn't see? Or does Brick Memorial, like you said, and we all know as coaches, we're always looking for that motivational factor that's going to get the team to buy in for that week, saying, hey, listen, this is your game that you can make your name, be the spoiler, do this,
Coach, I know Brick Memorial's got Connor Dietz, but I'm going to give you somebody that I think is going to change the game. The quarterback, Noah Bernardi, he's having another good year, 3-year starter. He's thrown for 565 yards, 62%, 5 touchdowns. But I love his field presence. I mean, he is like a coach out there. He's a lot stronger than he was last year. He's a leader. I think it's time for him to step up, and which I think he will, to add to Lacey's trophy case with Coach Versillo and get him one game closer to 400.
Yeah.
Maybe then he'll come on the show, Coach Versillo. So that's going to be an interesting game with those two Ocean County teams right there. Now, 3-2 Barnegat versus number 12 Point Borough, who comes in at 4-0. It's homecoming at Point Borough. Well, Coach, homecoming can be two things: A distraction, or B, it can elevate a team. Now, Point Borough is on a roll, and they seem to feed off their fans. And they had a couple off years, not this year. They're now 12th in our coaches poll.
Yep.
Playing a Barnegat team that's coming on 2 losses in a row. They're 3-2. This is going to be a tough game for Barnegat. It really is, because Point Borough is really – and Point Borough is still young. They are still a young football team, too. So their youth movement and they're winning, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for anybody, because Point Borough is looking at a number 1 seed in South Jersey or Central Jersey, wherever they're placed. With that. Yep. But Point Borough, Coach, is very good up front. And everybody's talking about Oliphant and Vitale and Ciliento and all those guys, but they're winning it up front on both sides of the ball.
This game is going to be one in the trenches between both teams, who both like to run the ball. This is a good showing for Coach Covey in here at Barnegat, coming off a loss to Asbury last week. How do you bounce back to Point Borough? Does Point Borough still keep going and still keep striding their legs out the way they've been doing it so far against every team they played? This is a really good football game as well on Friday night. But make no mistake about it, this game is going to be won on both sides of the ball, in the trenches, on the line, and in the offense and defensive line.
And recently, a lot of the Barnegat Point Borough games have always been tough, hard fought games.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever won in either way. Two Ocean County rival teams. Should be a good game on Friday night on homecoming at Point Borough. Now let's talk about two closely knit teams in the Shore. Number 11, 3-1 Middletown North versus the quiet number 14, 4-1 Brick Dragons, and they're quiet. Brick's probably going to be watching this saying, we ain't quiet anymore. Kicking down the door. It's at home. Lenny Zdanowicz, and I don't know if you know Coach Zdanowicz. I do. He went to college with me, and he's anything but quiet. That's just
Lenny and I were both named head coaches, our first-year head coaches, same year. Yeah.
Were you?
He's done a great job. Yep.
Yeah. So, somebody's going to keep it rolling. Somebody's going to win the division title. Somebody. Winner of that game is going to be at least clinch a share of the championship. And, Middletown North, Brick is a little one-dimensional, but they're good at it. Yes, we predominantly run the ball, but we run it very hard. Tyler Weiseneck, 307 yards, Coach. That says a lot, but they kind of split it up with different people. Newcomb, the lineman, he is a stud, top-level O lineman, D lineman, one of the best out there. He'll be a all-short candidate. But Middletown North is deceptively physical. You look at all their schemes and false pull, but somebody's cracking somebody in the face in the trenches. They're a good football team. I really like both these football teams. Middletown North is a little bit more diverse, but who knows? This can go either way. I don't consider any team who wins it's an upset or whatever. It's a toss-up.
And I don't know how often Middletown North has played Brick, but talk about two historic programs really over the years. I'm talking dating back to the 70s and 60s of what they've created with those two schools. This is a great old school Shore Conference matchup right here.
Yeah, Coach. Next game, number 8 Central, who's 5-0 versus at Mattawan 2-3. Now here's my issue. Central's got a big gripe. If I can't pronounce or say their running back's name by now, there's something wrong with me, right? Chase Gumbret. Yep. I could spell it in my sleep. He's been Division Player of the Week every week, and why? 1,192 yards. He's got 18 touchdowns rushing.
19.
Is it 19?
19.
I thought it was. I think that he had a reception for a touchdown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure with that. But
he leads the Shore in rushing.
Leads the Shore in rushing. Coach, we all and I love when people say this. Well, how does he do it? Because everybody knows he's getting the football. You know what that means? They're pretty good up front. I was just going
to say, they do some things up front on the offensive line.
Right? Yep. When you talk about a running back that is got statistics like him, somebody or a bunch of people are doing it right. And that's the linemen. The linemen are doing a great job at Central. And also Anthony Musso, their fullback and their D linebacker, is having a great year with that. But Central's playing well offensively, playing well defensively. Let me just read one thing off, though, Coach. Central Regional is number 2 on offense and defense in the Shore in yardage. They're averaging 381 on offense and giving up only 114. Amazing. That's pretty good.
Listen, that was the argument that we had prior into our show. How do you keep teams like that are considered to be in the top pod? Coach, it's mind blowing. But that's a great point, and you're giving love to the unsung heroes, the offensive line. Listen, you and I both know if we're scheming to stop that team, we're going to load the box up as much as we can to be able. And so obviously the secret's out. The Gumbra kid's pretty damn good, so he's going to be able to run the ball. But he's obviously accomplishing what he's doing, leading the Shore Conference in rushing. Why? because his offensive line is paving holes and doing what their job is to do. Do your job every play.
Now let's stop right there. I'm gonna play both sides of the fence. You Mattawan young guys, you want to make a name for yourself, you do it against Central. You do it against Central. Now we all know the linebacker, running back. They got Anuawa. He's got 580 yards, 5 touchdowns, and their outstanding quarterback, who's got 733 yards, and that's Bandugara. All right, at any time they can explode like they did in the beginning of the year. And those young guys, if you want to make a lasting impression and get your name going in the short conference, you do it on this stage. You beat the number 8 ranked team that's undefeated coming onto your field, and you make a statement. And if they do that, Madawan's record 3-3, and then we're right back at it.
And you know as well as I do, you're still dealing with high school athletes now. That you got to remember that all too familiar phrase: watch the trap game. Watch the trap game. Mm-hmm. You have to prepare every week.
Yep, Madawan's got some speed. They're young. Central's a little bit more mature. They're physical. Again, it's all about matchups. Central's going to be a tough game. Central's on a mission. I hope they're not looking too far ahead because they got Southern Regional coming at them. All right? Yep. Who knows? But the Cinderella season is still going on with Central. Yeah. Number 7, Manalapan, 3-1, coach. The Braves are back versus Jackson, 0-5.
Probably the best 0-5 team that there is around.
We can have a top 10 with 0-5s and present it. I mean, that's pretty good. But Jackson's 0-5, got snake bitten with a couple injuries. I heard they're coming back, and they're going to need it against the Manalapan team that has a lot of depth, maturity, and experience on the O-line, coach. It starts there, O-line, D-line. Mario Chiara, a great two-way player. Their outstanding quarterback, Heckel, is having a great Marquez, their running back. I mean, I like Bamonte, the receiver. I love him. I think his brother played a couple years ago with that. But they got Machai, was it Macheo? The kick returner, Dill, they have two kick
returns. You just said that because they're clicking on the third facet, which is most important as well, is special teams. They're starting to click on that facet
Coach,
as well.
Do you know that Manalapan has probably the best kickers in the shore from top to bottom? They got Carlton, who I think is a top-level kicker, and then their JV kicker, and I heard they even have a middle school kicker that can kick. I mean, what are they growing down there? I mean, these guys are booting balls all over the place, and other teams are going for 2 because they can't kick it over the crossbar, and they got depth at kicking.
Yep.
I'm talking about JV games. They're booting into the end zone. He's loaded at kicker.
Let's forget about the fact, and we know as coaches, what is so important is field position in a game. It's not just about kicking the extra points. If you could pin that team make them start on the 20-yard line every time.
Huge.
Percentages of having the score starting on the 20 are so greatly decreased.
Make a team go 80 yards instead of 40, right? And there's nothing wrong with a 4th down play, having your best offensive play, and it might be a 35-yard punt.
Absolutely right.
Field position is key with that. And Manalapan's playing good football on offense and defense. And you said it before, special teams. And that's a makeup of a team that's going to make a big run in the state playoffs. But they still have a chance, Coach. They still have a chance for that division title if certain things work a certain way. They do. Next game, Coach, we got Long Branch, number 6 Long Branch, versus 2-3 Toms River South. When you count out South, they win. I'm afraid to say they don't have a chance in this game because then I'm going to jinx it and they'll probably win. So South is, Jimmy Alexander had to take over at quarterback for the injury that they had a quarterback, and he's doing okay. He's doing all right for a sophomore right now, leading him to 2-3 record. But Danny George's tour is now coming to Toms River.
We got to start coming up with some concert tour shirts that we have out there, the farewell tour or something.
I don't know, man, but all I'm saying right now is I think more people are following the tour bus, and they're now getting on with the Long Branch Green Wave, Coach. They're 6-0. They're number 6, and they're 4-0, and they just seem like they're having fun. Those guys.
Yeah.
Christian Rodriguez, Shamar Williams, that outstanding defensive back. What was his running back's name again? That we said. Camus,
Yeah.
Farmer, an offensive defense. I mean, they're loaded, coach. They're loaded. They got receivers all over the place, skilled guys. They're physical, but they're playing with a lot of heart and energy. And that's the way Danny George wants to go down right now. I still think Coach George should do this after they win the championship. Say, I'm back.
I'm back.
I'm staying. I'm saying.
The one thing on this game, though, Detweiler Stadium is a tough place to play on Friday nights. It's a totally different entity with that team that goes on. So, but I agree with you. The Long Branch, the Green Wave tour of Danny George is just rolling along. So,
well, here's the key, coach. When you play Tom's River South, I told Sig this in the summer. When you go to a South game, the Indian is always there, and the Indian always does push-ups after every game. So if you never saw a South play, go to a South game before the game. Look at the Indian. If he's jacked up, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. He's been doing some push-ups during the season. If that Indian is skinny as heck, you got it made. So you want to tell? Look at the Indian, and if he's jacked up, you're done. If he's skinny,
I always knew that you were good at scouting, my friend.
Coach,
now you're taking a totally different.
I look at the mascot at South, and if he's skinny as a rail, we got this game won. If he's jacked up like Hulk Hogan, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. It's that simple. You don't have to watch film. Look at the mascot. Good. Number 4, Middletown South, and Coach Antonucci was on here. Antonucci was on here a couple weeks ago, and he's doing okay. He's 4-0, number 4 in the Shore, and sitting in that spot, maybe solidify that Shore Conference Final Four pod against Southern Regional. This is not only for the division championship. This is going to be for maybe the right to play in that Final Four. Southern included. Southern's 3-1. They're the number 9 ranked team in the Shore Conference, and it's at Southern Regional. And this is 2 outstanding coaching staffs, not just head coaches. Excuse me. I'm excited about this game. I wish I could be all over the place and watch these games. I may go to this game. I don't know. I may go.
I agree with you. The coaching staffs, when you look at the 2 of them, I mean, that's real. That's Shore Conference football. When you can talk about it, then you talk about South has got to travel all the way down the Southern Ram, country down all the way down south there. But South is coming off a bye week, and I know how well Antonucci and the staff prepare themselves.
Yeah.
Watch what's going on. And again, throw the other part onto it, like you had alluded to, is that they're battling for that top 4 spot or top 3 spot in that POD thing that we talk about that could be moving down the road. And there's a lot of great PowerPoints that you're talking Group 5 and Group 3 powers right here that could go on. There's a lot of stories.
My wife just yelled I should be going to the Southern game and stop traveling so far because I can't drive at night. So she made the decision. I might be traveling 2 miles down the road to Southern Rams land to watch them in Middletown South. Sometimes the wife knows how to pick it better than I do, right? So, great game. I'm going to tell you right now, there's star power out there. You have Southern Regional got Jaden Brown, but Jaden Brown's not the only one. We talk special teams. Jaden Anthony, Anthony, kicker, plays both receiver and DB, having an outstanding year, coach. Big threat, playing to the run and having a kicker like that. You have Nate Committee, who's owning the D-line and is also that big fullback. I love Tristan Arthur on the D-line, also a tight end. But they got a lot of great program kids, Southern Regional. They really do. And the quarterback, Shoebigger, had a very good game, throwing for 185 last game. Now, Middletown South, they got star power, and they go one side of the ball. I love the center, Jake Williamson.
Jake, I agree with you. I think he's probably one of the best offensive linemen in the Shore. Agreed.
All right, Tommy Shork, the quarterback, defensive back. Coach, he's actually doing them a favor playing quarterback because he's so good at DB.
He's good at defensive back,
Oh, he's a college corner. He really is.
I agree with you.
It really is. I love Colin Gallagher, the linebacker. Coach, if you don't know his name, you're going to know it when we do the All-Star teams because he's not just a sophomore. He's a good varsity player. I mean, I think he may be leading the Shore in sacks with 8. Just coming off the edge.
Off the edge
A
rush.
solid football team. So is Southern. What am I doing if I don't go to the game? I'm like talking myself into it now.
Great game. Great game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be there at Southern. Big game. Two teams deserve the spotlight. You know what? Shore Football Report should be there. That's it, right? Good. All right. Number 5, Wall playing number 3, Donovan Catholic.
Wow.
Now, there's so much riding on it. I think the ADs want just somebody just make our job easier. Picking this, who's going to be in the Final Four for this thing.
Yep.
Donovan Catholic, Wall. What are some of the storylines? Well, let's scale back a couple months.
Take your pick.
How about the 1-yard line? Can we say that? At Wall last year for the championship of the Shore Conference Tournament. Great play call on both sides.
Yeah.
One player made the play, and they missed it by this much.
Yeah.
And Wall won the championship. Valiant effort on both teams. It really was. And now they get to redo the whole thing. Wall Donovan. And it's for a lot. And it's for a berth maybe in the Shore Conference Tournament Final Four, because whoever loses is out of that.
Right.
Is out for that. Donovan Catholic is hungry after what happened to last week. Wall's starting to get their mojo back, right?
Yeah.
Getting their guys back. It's going to be a war this game, and I think
something that's a little different this year, Coach. Both teams are fighting, with a little adversity that they did not have to deal with last year. Wall has a little adversity where they lost a couple games in the beginning of the year because they were missing some players.
You're right.
Now they're bouncing back.
You're right.
Obviously what came down with Donovan Catholic with the sanctions from the NJSIA about the ineligible player.
Yeah.
So this was two things that did not occur last year with these two teams. How do they come back this week against facing each other?
You're right.
It's a good point. There's a lot of storylines.
Adversity. You're right. Both teams had to deal with it. People written off Wall right in the beginning when they lost, and look at them right now. They're playing a just as meaningful game right now. They have everything to play for. They still
absolutely.
I mean, they can't win a division championship, okay, but they still could win the Shore Conference Tournament if they win. Every week is a playoff for them, and they still got the state title and all that stuff too. You're right. You're right. Excellent storyline games. A lot of great athletes out there. And it's just a lot of athletes out there with the memory of last year's game.
Oh, of course.
It's not like their big brother played and now I'm playing. No, they all are back. So
that's a good point.
There's a lot of sweat, a lot of memories, and from coaches too. And I know Coach Sergione, he coached at Wall, and now he's playing. I mean, there is so much hype for this game and build up, and maybe I'll go to this game. I don't know.
We both know as coaches. Listen, it means as much to the coaches as it does to the players. Coach Curcione goes for it, like you said, on the 1-yard line, which was the great call.
There's nothing wrong with
your team to win. And Wall's defense comes up big with their play. So, and you know that both coaching staffs are retained. They both come back. That's going to be in the back of their head too. Trust me, we take it to bed just as much as the players, if not more sometimes.
That there was absolutely nothing wrong with it. That was a great call because that's what they got there with the power option, the power read, all that stuff. But I mean, power's power, and Wall stopped the power. They didn't do it, and that's the way it goes. And maybe it won't go that way this weekend. But a big buildup. I don't know what game I'm going to. I'm so undecided.
That's a good one.
I might audible on Friday. I might be going to Southern. Check. Donovan Catholic. Don't
check the audible off to the wife though.
No. I'm gonna let her think I'm somewhere else and be the other place.
A true RPO.
Yeah, that's gonna be a true RPO. Yes. Yeah, good. All right, let's talk about the last two games. Number 2, RBC versus Ocean, who's winless right now. Again, they're a good Owen schedule team. They really are. I wouldn't want to play them if you're in the pot. Tyler Douglas is having a good year. They're young, but they're playing RBC.
Yeah.
I don't want to give out who I'm picking in these games, but you may know by my body language, RBC is pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah. When you play teams that are talented like an RBC, or like when you had Matter Day, Coach, we were undefeated. I had a nightmare because on Facebook it has memories. And I had this memory of game day. It was 4-0 Barnegat versus 5-0 Matter Day. And I thought I was watching Halloween when I saw it. Because you know as well as I do, we lost that game, and we also lost our starting tight end. We got a little dented up, and it's hard to coach from a public school. It's hard to recover playing a powerful team like yourself or Red Bank.
And listen, and I'm always honest. I've always said it publicly. There's an absolute difference, with a non-public with a public. I understand the amount of players that are allowed to come into a program, into a school where we could draw from. We could draw from all over the state. A Barnegat, an Ocean. Really, you're relegated to that school district. I'm not a hypocrite. I'll be the first one. That's why I've always been a big proponent of having a non-public division, have them battle it out, and then let the public play it and just be separate, because they do it in the state.
God forbid we did that. But
we do it in the state, but it's okay, to do it down in the public. But I agree with you, Coach.
Coach, I always said this: my life would be so much easier if I needed a quarterback and I can go look for one. Instead, when you're a public school guy, you develop quarterbacks in your science classes or your English classes in a hallway, and that's what you do. It's tough for public schools because you got to coaches in your hallways, and then the parochial schools, they can legally do other things,
100%.
And then you're playing them on the field, and it's different. It's just different.
And you really, as a public school coach, have to be so much more invested in your AYF program or your youth program and middle school program, because, and ultimately, I'll be the first one. You don't want to lose those kids to leave those programs to go to a non-public.
My buddy's the head coach at DePaul Catholic, John McKenna. Well, he's not there anymore, and he would always say "Mouse."
Now the AD stepped down.
He'd be saying, he goes "Mouse," and that was my nickname. And he goes, "We don't have a feeder program, so we don't have it. We have to do what we have to do." Bottom line is, I didn't have sympathy for him when he said that. He said, "I'll camp out in Barnegat if you keep it up in your in your in the stands and do my thing, and you can't legally do anything." I said, "Yeah, but I can meet you back in the stands and talk a little bit if you do that, right, John?" But it's different, Coach. In a perfect world, if the parochials can do things and we can't, then let the parochials do it. And have your own sections and games and do your things and let us do your thing. And then nobody has a problem with it. That's what I think.
I agree.
That's what I think.
100% agreement.
That's what I think. Now, with that being done and said, Red Bank Catholic's a heavy favorite.
Red Bank Catholic's got Ocean. Ocean's got a tough game ahead of him.
Coach Klein, I think, is agreeing with me when he watches this tomorrow. Nothing against him. Listen, I think that Ocean can flip that schedule around with the right teams in the pod and the constellation. Maybe they sneak a win here or there with the bonus points of RBC. Maybe they sneak into the playoffs. You never know with those bonus points. But RBC's got so much depth. They got so much depth right there on the team, and they have star power, and they're on a mission. They're on a mission. They're a special team this year, Coach. They really are. And you got a little bit of mix of Matter Day players in there kind of doing well.
Just a couple.
You know what we haven't talked a lot about, though? We talk about the linemen and all that. You have a guy, Carpenter, who committed to Purdue, correct?
Yeah.
You have, I love the kid Portella. Now, we all know about Sabino, the receiver, the skill kid. But there's a lineman. There's a lineman, Portella.
Sophomore, right?
Who likes pancakes. Let's put it that way. You know? They're pretty good linemen right there. I know he does. And they got guys on defensive line and, Bauman. We talk about that. And I love the other guy, McPherson. They're well-rounded.
And you got one of my kids from last year starting at guard, Ashton Mejias, who now is a plug-and player for them at left guard right now.
What is he, 285?
Yeah, every bit.
My God, are you kidding me? I mean, Jesus Christmas. I mean, what do? You just pick a play out of the hat and go, run this play. Like almost like Madden, let the computer pick it. But they're rolling right now, and whatever they're doing, keep doing it, because the structure there is working, and it's gonna be a tough game for Ocean. It's good. All right. Last one, Rumson, number 1 Rumson versus number 13 Colts Neck. Rumson's 4-0, Colts Neck's 3-1. We know that Colts Neck lost 2 games. It's a different 3-1. Coach Colts Neck is a straight ahead team. They'll bloody you up. I mean, Rumson just wears you out. I mean, Rumson has guys that go one way. I mean, your philosophy it scares you because they got guys that go both ways. Colts Neck, Rumson's one side. I mean, John List at linebackers drinking water and chilling out while they're on offense. That's scary, Coach.
That's a really astute comment right there. Colts Neck's identity, we both know, is they're going to want to put their hand on the ground and wear you down running the ball. But the difference with the Rumson Fairhaven team is you're playing a defense is not playing offense. All they're doing is playing. So you're not going to wear them down as opposed to another team where the primary short conference teams are playing both ways and they start to get a little fatigued, a little beaten up down in the third or fourth quarter. This team's playing one way, and all they're being, by the way, coached up all week long.
All game, Coach.
Yeah, that's right. That's
like
right.
They don't even it's almost like they don't even associate. I don't even know if they know who's on the other side, Rumson.
I know what we used to do. As soon as 70% of my defense, and I was blessed to have the numbers, they would come off the field. They went to the bench. We didn't even look at what the offense was doing over the side, coaching up what mistakes were made, what we think schematically
they make mistakes at Rumson. I haven't seen any.
So to be able to have
races.
That intangible like a college program would do, once you come off the field, don't worry about what the other side of the ball is doing. Coach them up and get them back out.
Talking to Coach Schulte before the season, and I did a whole database on who they had coming back, like who made all-star teams and who they have, and you're like, they don't have a lot of key players that made accolades last year coming back.
Mm-hmm.
He looked me in the eye. I saw him at a game. He goes, I like my team. And you look at him and you go, how do you go against a guy that's been producing the way he is when he says he likes the team? He likes his team. And that was before I even knew who Colin Kennedy was. I know Geoff Schroeder is having a great game. He made all conference and all that too. But they got now household names, and their offensive line. What a number they did on Wall game 1. What a number, Coach. They're pretty good. Rumson's on a mission to add to that division titles. And
I know it's an overused expression, but I know what they preach there. It's tradition never graduates there. It's built from their freshman program up all the way through. It's the same mentality of team, next player in. That's the way they do things over there, and it's a really, really well-oiled machine.
Yeah, they got it going. It's very impressive when they got guys lined up from the 20 to the 20, shoulder to shoulder.
Oh my God, 85 kids standing on the sideline.
Coach, they're Group 3.
Yeah, I know exactly.
I mean, what Group 3 with 90 plus kids?
Yeah,
that's it's insane. And they're playing in a Group 5 division. You know, people don't realize that. People go, "Oh, you can't play up. You can't." Well, they're playing up, and they're dominating.
Yeah,
they're the number 1 public school in New Jersey.
Yeah,
you know that, right? By the Star Ledger. If we want to recognize the Star Ledger, you're not number 1 unless the Shore Football Report says you're number 1.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we throw those other things out the window there, but that's going to be a big game for Rumson to keep it going. I mean, Colts Neck is a good football team. No bones about it, but there's different levels. There's different levels, and I don't think I'm saying anything that everybody else is thinking with that. So that's a recap of next week's games, Coach, or a breakdown.
Week 6, yep.
Wow. Week 6. What do you think?
Before you know it, we're going to be talking. It's going to be moving into mid-October, and we start getting out of regular season, moving forward into what's going on with those POD things that we talk about. But then, most importantly, down the road, states, qualifying for state playoffs. But we're starting to get to that point in the season now.
Well, this show will be on one day later, so everybody's going to see this on a Thursday. I got like 100 messages on my Instagram. Why isn't the show on right now? I mean,
that's a good thing.
Oh my God. Well, 50 of them were my family. Let's just say that. Right. 20 of them was the same person, but there we go. But yeah, Coach, we have the the anticipation of each show, and it says a lot about you and the content that we're doing. Um, we're having fun doing this.
Truly having fun. Truly having fun.
We're having fun doing it. Yeah, and that's the main thing. And the main thing is, for every kid that gets a name mentioned on here, it's one more time they're doing it. So it's not hurting anybody. Well, it's not hurting anybody. What I'm going to do, Coach, I got Chris Melvin, a recruiting analyst. I don't know if you know Chris.
I know Chris very, very well.
Chris, and I got Dave McCarthy, the McCarthy Report.
Report. Yep.
Who was in my wedding party. He was my college teammate.
Oh, wow, I know. Wow.
Yeah. He's always helped me in recruiting and all that stuff. And we're gonna have a round table talking short conference football, recruiting and top players, and I'm gonna have a big show with it. You're invited if you want to come on, and we can have a big talk about the top players and all that, and listen to everybody else's take on different things. And I definitely would love to have you, and I love having you on the show for a couple reasons. You're a Monmouth County guy. I'm Ocean County.
Yep.
You're a parochial school.
Yep.
I'm a public school.
Yeah.
All right. And we're giving different views on different things.
Different.
You're a defensive guy. Mouse Davis is an offensive guy.
Yeah.
Offense. You're right. Yep. If it was up to me, defense would never have to show up. Well, onside kick it. Coach, I always had a theory. Tell me this is like this. You're playing a team. I've always thought this. You're playing a team that is so much better than you. If you score one time on them, the first time, and they're loaded, and you keep on side kicking it, and you keep recovering it, this is my whack, and you keep getting it, and you keep scoring, and they never touch the football, you'll never lose.
You'll never lose.
But you gotta score and get the recovery of the football.
And you have to execute.
There's a team in California that had that philosophy. And they did statistics, and I think they got like 45% of the onside kicks. So you think of that. You have 10 possessions, and 4 times you get more possessions. Now, here's my question to you. Heads or tails, when you do it before the game, you win the choice. What do you do? What do you like to do as a coach?
I like to defer.
Why?
I just like to be able to get the mindset of what the other team wants to do, basically what goes on. I don't want to have to show my hand right off the bat of what I'm trying to do in a game.
I love to defer. And why? Because if you could squeeze that last possession at the end of the half, and you score, and then you get it, then you get it again. You're one up. That's what I always do. I hate when I get the ball first. I'm like, oh, there's so much pressure, right? Because if you don't score that first possession, momentum could shift.
It's completely flipped because now you ended up taking the life out, and we're getting the ball in the second half.
Now, important question: are you a heads or tails guy?
Oh, I've always been tails.
Really?
Always been tails.
Heads I win, tails you lose. I always
in our sick minds as coaches, I've always heard down the road. I don't remember where I heard it, maybe 20 years ago, that the head side is always a little heavier than the tail side, so the heads will land on the ground. Hence why, and again, we don't want to talk betting.
Sometimes
I do well on Super Bowl Sunday. Sometimes I don't do well on Super Bowl Sunday.
So
by a certain thing.
We played in the state finals, and they had the coin toss, and I'm very superstitious. I made the official show me twice if the coin was two-sided or one side. Like, he's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "This is the most important flip you ever did." He looked at me and goes, "Dude, whatever." Well, we lost the coin flip, and we did lose the game in the finals. It's a good Delsey team. But, coin tosses, us coaches, we all have superstitious things, and we all do it, and you never question the guy who does it. It's not just stepping on a line or you do, but that's what makes the game fun.
That's what exactly.
Makes it,
and then this little conversation we're having right now, that's what I truly miss too a little bit. Those little things that go on, why we give such a good perspective as coaches, talking on this talk show, those little things that you and I are not doing now. Those were like those are the little memories that I'm smiling really of clicking like on game day, watching the wind, bending down with my right hand, always my right hand, grabbing the grass and throwing it up in the air to see where the wind was blowing it. Simple things that we know as coaches,
especially on the turf. Yeah, you're right.
It didn't matter. It's just little things that we all know in our sick minds of alumni coaches that the only way we think, that's the way we do things.
I miss the rapport with the players. I miss the rapport
Yeah.
with the coaches.
I
Yeah,
truly miss that.
I really do.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the hallways at Barnegat, and I want to stay away from those coaches because they're all my coaches, I've stayed away purposely because I want them to grow together because the program needs to develop without them. But
Yeah.
I love them. I miss those guys. But I had to do it. I had to step away from my health, and I got cleared. It's like I got cleared, and now my wife's like, "I never told you had to quit." I'm like, "Wait a minute, you kidding me?" But I did what I had to do, and I miss it, man. And if I ever get back in the field, I'm going to kiss that grass.
But again, good things happen to good people. Look what it's turned into and what it's progressed to. Short football report. I'm totally, and I told you as a friend, first and foremost, I'm humbled and honored to be a part of it. I see what's going on. I hear the buzz outside. What's been said by other coaches and the players of how it's been. You talked about it before with the amount of views that we're getting on YouTube, only exclusively on YouTube.
Only.
Right, to be able to get out. So you obviously had a good mindset, saw a vision where we wanted to go, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Coach, it's real simple because sponsorship likes to see views. Like I didn't want to put it on Instagram and this because then the YouTube wouldn't be it wouldn't be as high because people would see it on Instagram. I could always put all my content on Instagram and everybody will watch it. I'm talking thousands and thousands. So what we're doing is we're forcing everything on YouTube and to monetize and all that stuff too.
Correct.
And all that stuff.
Correct.
So yeah, but there's ways. But the thing I like is that we've advertised word of mouth. We took care of it from a coaches association.
Best form of publicity is word of mouth.
So in terms of next year, if I'm not coaching and you're not coaching and we do this again, who knows?
Absolutely.
Who knows what we're doing next year?
Yep.
I have some pretty good ideas on what to do, and there's some sponsors, big name sponsors that want in, and I'm going to kind of make it bigger. If
I can attest to that. You're right.
But we're undefeated right now. Right now, if there's football talk shows, we're probably, I think we're receiving votes for number one.
Our UPI rating's way up there.
Oh,
way up there in PowerPoint.
Right. Mike and the Mad Dog are below us right now. Stephen A. Smith, he's below us. But we're sitting pretty good right now, and I think that we're on a good path to do things. But the thing that makes this work is the cooperation from the Coaches Association.
Agreed.
It really does.
Agreed.
They're awesome. I love when I tell them how things are working, and they always say, "You're one of us."
Yep.
So that kind of makes me feel special with that, because when we're doing this, we're not thinking of me and you. We're thinking of we. We're thinking of the kids. We're thinking of programs. And
thinking of the short conference, the greatest conference of football in the state of New Jersey.
I don't care what somebody says. There's somebody out there, at least one or two people, that may know now a name from some other program that they normally wouldn't have done if they didn't have it, right?
That's true.
And people said they use this as a podcast. They don't need to see us. They just drive in the car and listen to us all the time.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've heard you mention names to me that I've overlooked or I have not seen yet because you're so well versed in Ocean County and what's going on where I've seen mine. And that's opened my eyes up because I've seen names sometimes on the all-shore team or all-division team and said, "Oh, I don't know that kid," or "I haven't seen that kid play." Now I'm hearing it.
I'm gonna say this, and I told coaches this too. We're a coaching association based program right here. I'm not picking coach of the year. I'm going to recognize coach of the year from when the coaches name it within their divisions.
Correct.
I'm not going to do that. I will do players. I will do the all division teams. I will do all, we will do we will do an all county team. We'll have an all division. We'll have an all shore. We can do whatever we want to get more names out there and get those kids feeling special, and the guys well deserved. But we're also going to recognize an all freshman sophomore team. We're going to have some fun with that, Coach. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, Football Report is the only outlet for that right now.
Yeah, I can't wait. I really can't wait. And more importantly, if we can open up the doors for colleges for some of these players now or in the future, so be it.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about. We'll use our connections, and we will supplement the recruiting for the high school coaches, because I know all those coaches work real hard getting it. We're not going to step on anybody's toes, but if we can help to supplement their work, we'll do it. And that's what it's
Yep.
all about, helping the kids, Coach. Thank you. Week
Yes.
6 is going to happen in a couple days, and it's if I didn't have this, I don't know if I would be able to deal with football right now. No, this is therapy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm actually admitting it on
Yeah.
my 500 views right here. This
I
Coach,
agree
this
with
is therapy for me, because if I didn't do this, I don't know what I would be doing right now to occupy my brain with not coaching football
Listen,
anymore.
there's no hypocrisy in my mind. I was thinking to myself when July and August was rolling around, not being, what is my mentality going to be like on that Saturday or Friday moving into September? Because you're so used for you and I respectively 20-something years being on the sideline. It's a different life change. But this has gotten.
I've had assistant coaches contacting me, and they go, "Can you do something for the freshmen? Can you do something for the JV?" And I'm thinking, well, I know everything's based on varsity, but you know what? If that gets those kids excited, maybe I'll post what everybody's records are with underclass, something like that, with that.
Yeah.
So, all right, listen, another great time.
Yes, sir.
Make sure everybody gets this out. Let's spread this out. If every
Post it, share it, whatever you got to do.
if everybody program it's about the program in the short conference. Let's see how many views we can get all the time. It's up to you guys to share it, spread it, and keep it working. And hopefully we can assist you guys and make things. If you have suggestions, you want us to do something in the future, tell us. We can either do it or ignore it. We're with that. But if you message us, we will definitely read it. But we'll do everything we can to make these shows as best as we could. Right?
Yes, sir.
Coach Hoadley and Coach Davis signing off to you guys. And let's have an exciting time this weekend, Coach. Right?
Enjoy the weekend of football, everybody.
Thanks.